All right, everybody. Welcome back to another training session with me and Demetrius. Now, I know it's a Saturday. Everybody's probably enjoying their weekend. So anybody that does happen to be here, we really appreciate it. This is going to be Demetrius's last day here with me, as I'll be taking him to the airport tomorrow morning. So yeah, let's try to take this opportunity to see what he has to teach me for today, and that can also hopefully help everybody else out. So without further ado, Demetrius, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to you if you want to get in front of the camera.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back, or welcome for those. Yeah, good to be here. Okay, let's get rolling. So for those who don't know me, I'll do my intro as I'm Demetrius Gelatis from Minnesota. And I am a full-time pool coach that works with intermediate and advanced players that are passionate about getting their game to the next level. And so I do 3-day one-on-one coaching sessions. And I also do 2-on-1 sessions for people that would like to partner up for economic reasons. So for those that are interested and just the cost is in the way, talk to me. We have alternatives. But anyway, yeah, I do 1-on-1 and 2-on-1 boot camps for advanced players or intermediate and advanced players looking to really dig in. And I love this game. I do it because this game, when it's played right, is very rewarding to develop more and more tools so that you can overcome adversity at the table, identify, plan out, and then overcome challenges on the table that lead to, table runs that are completed and even the way that you intended to, and solving problems that you couldn't have done in the past. And having those experiences is very meaningful. So that's what I'm all about, and that's what we're here to do.
Okay, so what are we doing today?
So yeah, today we've got a good lineup. We are going to be doing a lot of work on pattern play and actually putting some of the pieces together that we've talked about in theory. We are going to be doing some safety play when it comes to not just 9-ball, but also 8-ball. And then we're going to be doing some cool drills as well that I think are going to be fun and instructive. Some stuff that I've come up with that I think has been fun for me. So it's like when I come up with like workouts that hit the muscles I want to work, I know that I want to share. So.
Awesome. Okay. So where do we begin?
I actually want to answer one question that I saw in the comments from yesterday, which there was a comment about the 2-inch slow start. So for people that don't know what we're talking about with the stroke, that was published on your channel yesterday. You can go back and watch it. So the question was, what is the purpose of starting our stroke slow before we letting it swing?
Okay.
And the best answer I can say is, if you think back to the analogy I used about using the side of your cue to move the ball, if you have a wood shaft, you don't want to ding the shaft. And if you want to roll the ball with the side of your cue, why do we press the cue lightly against the cue ball and start it moving slowly before we start applying that zip? And so we don't ding our shaft, because if we just swat the ball with the side of our cue, we're going to ding our shaft.
Sure.
So you put the cue lightly so that there's no sudden change of force between the cue and the cue ball. You set your cue against the cue ball, start it moving gently, and then you start building speed. Same thing with the stroke. The reason for that slow start is, if we start our stroke and set the groove before we let it swing, if we just let it creep a little before we let it start to swing, it prevents us from jerking our cue forward with muscle. So the whole thing we're trying to prevent is tightening up and shoving our cue. And so it's very hard to start to swing relaxed and then suddenly jerk. But if we don't do that, it's easy to want to jam our cue forward. So by starting our cue slower, it allows us to overcome the tendency to jerk our cue forward. And by allowing it to start slow, it just turns into more of a graceful flowing swing.
Right.
And so that's what that's about. Okay. So pattern play.
Okay. What do you got?
So we're going to get into, we're going to start looking at some patterns. I never do like these preset patterns like, oh, here, let's lay them out like this. I like random because that's like authentic. But there's one idea I want to talk about, which is, we kind of mentioned it last night. We were talking about a situation that came up during our set.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with target creation. How do we create the targets that we are needing to hit for our cue ball? So there was a chess instructor that used to tell me that you're only as good as your what questions are we asking ourselves when we see a table? Or what, you know, and it's the case of chessboard, you know, are we asking, you know, what questions are we asking? So there's no rules about patterns. There's no like, you always do this. But there are questions that we can ask to evaluate the position. And so when we look at patterns, what we're trying to do is we're actually creating targets on the table that we are creating to move from ball to ball to ball to ball and have our run continue. And a lot of people don't really create those targets, or if they do, they're vague or big. And so we're going to talk about target creation a little bit. And let's just get going. Let's get going so that we have.
Before we do, I did forget about this because you mentioned about your boot camps.
Oh, I didn't even plug the website.
Exactly. So we have Bob Henson here. Wants you to state the website. Like, how do people get a hold of you if they're interested in your boot camp?
So I'm at mnpoolbootcamp.com, which stands for Minnesota Pool Boot Camp. So mnpoolbootcamp.com. You can email me at info@mnpoolbootcamp.com. Yeah, please drop me a line. I'm really passionate about helping people, and even if you're not sure if you're at a level where a 3-day would be appropriate, talk to me. I just had somebody 2 nights ago ask me about training with me, and I told them I didn't think it was in their best interest to train with me yet, but that there are certain things they could do to maybe prepare themselves and develop their game along a certain path to where we could work together. So I'm willing to I'm going to do what's in your best interest, and I'm going to make sure you're set up on the right road. So
okay,
cool, yeah. Awesome, thank you. So we're going to look at some rotations and, running them in order.
Okay.
And I think 6 balls is generally a good number.
Okay.
I throw out 7 because 1 usually falls. I break really good like this. See that? Well, and this is a little congested. Maybe I didn't break all that well. Get one more ball out there. Let's see what we get. Okay. This is random. Now, I don't set them out there, but sometimes I try to figure out if there's a rack I want to veto. This one is, I'm trying to think. This one is okay. Sure. So, Chris, you've got some cool software. You've got this projector system. Mm-hmm. Do you want to, projector this thing?
Okay. Let's, I gotta set some things up for this, so give me just a second.
No problem.
So the viewers have a better chance at seeing this. Let me switch over to.
Boy, it's going to be a tough run too.
To this, and then we're actually going to dim the lights a little bit. So it's going to be a little bit darker for us, but hopefully this is going to allow the viewers to see everything better. And I think in doing so, I also need to shut off a couple of lights.
I'm going to get a different pattern. There's some things about this. I don't think this would be the right one to spend time on. It's a very tough layout, and there's going to be some exceptions to it.
Okay.
Wow, it got dark in here.
Yeah.
This is kind of weird, too. I mean, it's fine. It's just... Is this what I'm really looking for? Yeah, this could work.
So do you want this?
Yeah, I'm going to take down 1 ball, though. I'll take down... 3 ball. It doesn't really matter. 3. I'll take that this one. Okay, now we got 6. We'll try this run here.
Let's take the 4 ball and place it where it's at.
Perfect.
It's going to be right about there. I'm not going to try to hit these perfectly.
Yeah, that
get them in the general vicinity.
Perfect. So now this run is fairly open, right? But they're all open if you do them right. And so I thought I'd start with something a little bit simple, and then we'll get into more complex situations. My eyes are starting to adjust. We're like in a movie theater now. He had to turn off a bunch of lights. So it looks normal to you guys, but to us it's really dark in here. But that's okay. I'll use echo. What if I could aim with echolocation? I can just close my eyes. Right? I don't know. Okay. So what we're going to talk about. So obviously people see pool as a series of balls they need to pocket, which is true. But pool is also a series of targets that we need to hit for our run to continue as planned. So in order to figure this out, a lot of this we do kind of obvious, well, where do I need to be for the 5? And people are vague about where they need to be for the 5. But looking at this, let's just kind of look at some of the ideas we talked about yesterday. Which shots do we need to move on? And which shots are we okay not moving too much? So I want you to tell me, Chris, So we're going to shoot the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Obviously, the 9, it doesn't matter if we move or not. So out of the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which of those balls are move balls, and which of those balls do you feel like are hole shots?
So given at what I'm looking at, I only see the 8 ball as a move shot, mainly because if I shoot the 4 here into the side or any of the corners really, a little bit of movement because I'd like to be maybe nice and flat on the 5, so that way I don't have to move from the 5 to the 6. And generally speaking, I wouldn't really move from the 6 to the 7 because I would shoot the 7 into this corner pocket. But then from the 8, if I don't move from the 7 to the 8 because I'm just rolling, the cue ball is going to come out here. So like I only see that as the moving shot going from the 8 to the 9, to where I would probably stun out over here or draw over here to this side rail and shoot the 8. The 7, 8, and 9 are going into the same corner.
Okay.
Is what I see.
So then you're right. So if you go that way, there's very little movement from the 4 to the 5, very little movement from the 5 to the 6, very little movement from the 6 to the 7, and then not a lot of movement from the 7 to the 8 either, and then there's just a little movement from the 8 to the 9.
Right.
Okay, so that makes your answer made sense based on the pattern you called out. It's not the way I would play them, but go ahead and run them out like that a couple times. We got certain things marked. Let's just hit them out. Let's just see how it goes.
Okay. So initially, what I'm thinking is just the 4 here.
Oh, this is so weird. It's like bowling with it's like the black light. I feel like we're playing in black lights. I should have like a t-shirt that glows in the dark.
So a little bit of movement here as I attempt to get a little closer to the 8 ball to try to make the shot easier, but no real effort on the cue ball. Of course, I missed the shot. Okay. And then here's the movement as I spun out to the side rail. And attempt to put 9 in the same pocket. Thinner than I would have liked, but still doable. Except it's not doable.
Well, not the black lights. Let's do this one again. Just do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Don't worry. Just do it again. This is so cool, man. The system. Wow.
Oh, yep, that's the 5 ball. Pink 4, purple 5.
Matchroom. Thank you, Matchroom. The WPA doesn't have a purple 5. Nothing.
All right. But stick to the same routine.
Yeah. Just do it again. Just do it again.
I have one different move that I can do from the 6 to the 7, but I'll keep it the same.
Yeah, just.
This is weird. This is a different movement though, just drawing back. Here we go.
Nice run. Okay. So Matt Wolf says he played the 6 and 7 in the same pocket. So here's what I think. What I like about what you did is you minimized movement. So you're taking a lot of, like, you're not getting fancy with your cue ball. You're not doing a lot of, you kept it really simple.
Right.
And you did it. Couple of miscellaneous points about one thing about the 8 to the 9 that it's funny. I always feel like I've talked about this stuff before, but a lot of you guys haven't ever heard me talk before. So here it is. Here's the shot line on the 8. And listen, not everyone's going to understand everything I say. Fair enough. I'm talking to a diverse audience of skill levels. But when we are back cutting this 8-ball, remember yesterday we talked about how draw as a control becomes less and less effective as we have angle?
Correct.
Well, it has less and less control over direction and less control over speed. And then meanwhile, side spin only takes effect when you hit a rail, which means if we're not hitting a rail, we can't really change the path with side spin. So when we're back cutting a ball from this side of the shot line here, we can't really change the cue ball's path with side spin until it gets to that far rail.
Right.
So when we get thin like this, high ball, the furthest I can go forward is like this direction. The furthest I can hook back with draw is like this direction. And by speed, I'm going all the way across table. I can't like draw it to here. You know what I mean? It's gonna fly.
Right.
So this is my directional options. And my speed control options are limited, and it takes a good hit with draw to bend it back. Whereas if I'm on the other side of the shot line going into this rail, well, we looked at how it unlocks side spin. Going into rails unlocks side spin. So I can use high inside, and I can run into the end rail. I can use low outside, I can draw all the way up to here. So now my directional options look like this.
Right.
And I have a lot of control about speed, about how I come off this rail to kill my speed. So in general, when I see this 8, I like being on this side of it. All things being equal, I like going into rails. It unlocks a lot of tools for me. And what happened when you got here the first rack was, sure enough, it didn't bite enough, and it was a little bit, it didn't quite come back. No, it wasn't really a big problem, and you could hit it better if you did it again. But in general, I like being on this side of the 8 more so than this side of the 8. Although here, you can also follow 2 rails. Okay. That's a miscellaneous, that's a small thing. Getting to the 7 and the 6. I wouldn't play it the way you played it. For me, it was scary. And here's some of the things that are scary. If you stop on the 6 ball, this becomes a little bit of an uncomfortable cut. Like I can miss this ball.
Sure.
If you come over though and get straight, or you get that angle where you're just kind of going into the rail just a little bit, now I can kind of get trapped on the rail where the 8 ball is back cut, awkward, not really where I want to be.
Sure.
I don't want to end up on the rail, but I don't want to like try to make sure I don't and then like drift over too far or stop. So if we look at a target, come on down. Let's have you do it this way. This is how I create a target. So come on down.
Okay.
So quick little spiel on targets. What I think people do wrong with targets is there's 2 ways that they can mess up how they're visualizing their targets. The first way they can do it wrong is by being too vague and too big. Like, oh, I want to be somewhere around here. And people tend to, like, where do you want to be on the 8? Well, I don't know, somewhere out here. And they wave their arms around in these big circles. And I'm like, a lot of the parts of their arm circle don't really work that well. But then they go to the other extreme, which is I'm like, well, that's too big. Then they're like, okay, well, I want to be here. It's like, well, what's the problem with saying I want to be here? Well, that's too small. You can't hit a point. So if your target's really, really big, the problem is there's parts of that target that might not be very good. But if you try to fix that by going to a point, the problem is you can't hit a point. And so creating a target you can't hit doesn't really help you run balls. So what's the Goldilocks solution? Here it is. We start with that point. So I say, Chris, where would you like the cue ball in the 7? Okay, so now the question is, how far back on that line can you be and still feel like you like your position where you'd be happy to play from there?
Probably about right here.
Perfect.
The closer I get to the rail, the more uncomfortable it gets.
Great. Now, how far to the left can you be? Use the 6 ball. Show me, like, can you shoot from that circle and be happy? Or how?
No.
Okay, so move the 6 ball to your right until you're like it.
Probably.
Good. Now, take the cue ball, and then how far on the other side can you be? Because this is kind of where you had it.
Right.
How far the other way can you be and still like it?
Maybe about right there.
Okay, so your zone that you created goes from here to here, and then towards the 7. Right? That kind of looks like your zone. The problem I have with that zone is there's a middle in the middle, so I'm going to mark that with these balls.
Let me try something while you're doing that. Go ahead and explain. I'm going to try something.
The problem with that is that in the middle of that zone, there's an angle I don't like, which is there's a couple angles I don't really love. Yeah, I just don't feel like I'd like to be right where that cue ball's at, which is in the very middle of that zone.
Okay.
I think we could do this with the lines. Are you doing this with shapes?
Yeah.
I think I would just do it with lines. I know that was kind of goofy yesterday, but maybe if you drag that over here, maybe you're right. Maybe you can do that. This is so weird.
And then I guess I have to, whoops. I kind of make it a little bit bigger to give a zone. Oops. So approximately something like that.
All right. So take a look at the angle where the cue ball's at now. It's in the middle of the zone. I feel like if I had this angle here, I'd feel like I could screw this up. Like, I got to shoot the 7 in the corner. I'm kind of drifting into the rail. I don't really want to shoot. If I roll it in and kind of like drift up here, I'm going to be shooting from off the rail, back cutting the 8. If I pick up the angle where I'm going at the corner, now it's a real problem. But even if I can follow, I just feel like it's a little hinky. Meanwhile, some of this back cut stuff, like I can miss this shot. And you shot it twice and you made it both times, but like, it's just, I feel like I could mess this up.
Right.
What I like about it is it's super, super simple. It's super simple. Like you're playing, your cue ball is right next to the target. So what I like about that pattern is, I'm doing it again with this 5 ball. What I like about that pattern is that the gun you're using to hit the target, the gun is your cue ball maneuver, the target is the target. It's not about how big or small the target is. It's not about how accurate or inaccurate your gun is. What's important is that your gun, your cue ball maneuver, has to be equal to or smaller than your target. So the scatter of your cue ball gun, whatever cue ball maneuver we're doing, has to be equal to or smaller than the target you're shooting at. So over here, you created a small target, but you had a gun that could hit that target, which is good. I just didn't like all the spots of the target myself. So what I like is what Matt Wolf, what he said.
Yes.
Okay, so now I want to create some lines. So here's what I'd like to do is let's go into the 8 ball. Let's say that here's the shot line, and we want to be on the other side of the 8 ball. Let's create a target for the 8 ball that we think is reasonable on the other side. So put this cue ball what angle you'd like to have on the 8. 3 lines. Now, that's actually pretty good for that side of the zone, honestly. Like, I wouldn't want to be any thinner than this, right? Like, you wouldn't want to be over here on the 8. That's unnecessarily thin. And you wouldn't want to be straight either. How much angle do we need before we like it? I want more angle than that. Give me more angle than that. More. And yeah, that's fine. And then be closer. Like we wouldn't want to be that far, right? This is like the furthest we want to be is like here.
I'm still learning how to use the system, so give me a minute.
Segment or
reshape.
Oh.
Looks like there's a segment that I don't know about yet.
That's getting too flat. I don't want to be flat on this ball. I want to move. I want to move angle. There we go. Okay. Cool. And then you can drag that up and connect it.
I think this is a segment that I can remove.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So that's our 8 ball target. So the reason why is because we want angles to move. So from here, this is a roll shot. I can just roll this in and come 2 rails and out, and it's a very routine shot from here. From here, a little bit thicker than half ball, I'd have to stun my cue ball 1 rail to the middle, but I'd be totally fine from anywhere in here. I would not want to be here on the 8 ball. This is just, now I got to start drawing back and cutting the 9, which I just don't feel is necessary. Okay, so that's our 8 ball zone. So now let's look at this 7 ball. Show me what shot, like, we're not going to be back cutting balls. We're going to be going into the rail.
Right.
So we're going to be shooting the sticks and coming 2 rails around. to come one rail, where do we want to be to kind of come 1, 2, bump off the second rail?
For that, I would think the cue ball would be best somewhere probably like this.
Perfect. So that's the beginning. Then how far back can you go? Move the cue ball back. How far back before you start thinking it starts getting a little bit dicey?
I think I got, plenty of room probably up to here.
You can do it from here, but this is missable. Like if you're in a game, you could miss this. Move it to where it's not missable. Okay, there you go. That's almost perfect. Now, take the 4 ball. How far to the right can you go? And still feel like it's really easy to make and control.
Making and control, I'd probably say there.
Okay, and then how much thinner can you go? With the 5 ball. How much thinner can you go? Okay. That's a little too thin. You can miss that. I don't want tough shots. It's a little bit. You're a little ambitious. I feel like if I got there, I feel like I'd want to shoot my last shot again. Okay. I don't want to risk missing. I don't think you'd want to be any thinner than that. Okay. So this is your zone. It's kind of like, so now you can draw a zone from the first. But before we do, now we got to ask a question. So remember, you're only as good as your questions. So far the questions we've asked are, do we need to move or do we need to hold? We've asked, when we get, so what angles do we want? How big is that zone? Where do we want to be? So how do we go from this and this? How do we find the middle of this? Where do we want to be? How far back and how far to each side? Great. So now we've got our zone. But before we get too mentally attached to that zone, we have to ask another question, which is, does our gun hit that target? So if we shoot the 6 and come 1, 2 rails, do we always have the control to land in between the 5, 4 for this angle here? And my control is pretty good, but I'm not always going to hit that target.
Sure.
So that fails this test of, does my gun hit that target? So when we fail that test, there's always some things we can do. We can look at, maybe we use a different path. Maybe we go your way. Maybe we come 1 rail out instead or something. Or we can look at, is there a way to enlarge this target? And there is a way to enlarge this target. We ask ourselves, if we miss this angle, would we meant? So here's our target between the 7, 4, and 5, this triangle, for the 7. Well, would we rather miss our target here? Would we rather miss our target here? Or would we rather miss our target here? So, in my opinion, 2 of those work, 1 of them doesn't work. Like what works?
These 2.
Yeah. So we just don't want to end up thin on the 7 where we can't make it comfortably. Because if we get a little bit of extra distance, it's not ideal, but it's manageable. And if we get a little full on the 7, well, there's a cool shot we can use to enter into this target, which is the high inside 3 railer. We can come 1, 2, 3 and play the line position on the 8. So as long as we're not like straight in on the 7, as long as, if we look at it, as long as we even have, like even that much angle is fine. Would you agree that you can go high? So now what we've done is now we expanded our target from here all the way to here, and maybe back as far as that line. And now that target I can hit. So where do we want to be? How far to each side? How far back? Does our gun hit that target? And if it doesn't, where do we like to miss? How can we enlarge our target until it works? And now we've enlarged our target to where it works. Now I prefer this angle, but now I'm confident. So let's draw out this target from the cue ball to this 5 ball, and maybe back to the 4. We could draw like a little target for the 7.
Okay, so let's see if I can do this. I'm gonna have to move. Okay, that's how you do this. Okay. Shape the track.
This is cool. And we got a great comment, by the way, which we're going to talk about in a second. So thank you for the engagement, guys.
Did you say you wanted another line from the 4?
And it's good enough. Just know that this, it could come back to the 4, like this instead of a straight line, like whatever. It's fine. Okay. So that's our target for the 7 ball. So let's see here. That means to hit this target, there's a couple ways to go. Now there was a comment. Who made the comment about being on the other side of the 7 ball for the 6?
Let's see. So Matt Wolf says I play the 6 and the 7 in the same pocket. We already talked about that. And then we have S3204. He said, I think I'd rather come off the rail from the 5 to avoid any chance of being obstructed by the 7 in making the 6 ball.
So that's a fair point. So if we came out here for the 6, it's actually pretty routine to use. This is actually our side spin wagon wheel shot from yesterday. You just cut the 6 in thinly and kind of come 1, 2 rails and out, which is totally fine. The other thing is, the only thing is if we come out and we get a little bit more thick on the 6 ball like this, it's not quite as natural to come back. I don't want to stun to the rail low outside. I risk hitting the 7 or bouncing out too thin. I could use high inside 3 rails from here, but with the 6 that close to the rail, the cue ball can overspin and die in some weird ways. This is, in other words, I wouldn't want to end up with a hold angle on the 6 because I need to move.
Right.
And this is a hold angle. So if I was going to play over here, I'd want to play all the way thin on the 6.
Right.
So make the 4, make the 5 come all the way thin on the 6. And now it's like, this is just, I don't need to do that because I can roll it in and I've already got a move angle on the 6 coming the other way. So here's what I would say to O23TZ, whatever. Anyway,
S3204.
Is that like some moon of Saturn or something? Anyway, that's a cool name. Okay, so here's what I'd say. His point, if I could translate it into the language I'm using, is, geez, Demetrius, this is a very small target. To which I would say what, Chris? He's saying that the target for the 6 ball is very small.
Make it bigger?
Now, the first question is, let's look at our gun. What gun are we using to hit that target?
Stop shot or...
Yeah, or a soft roll. Like we're using a soft roll where our cue ball is going 1 inch.
Yeah.
So the question is, it's not about the target, how big the target is. It's about, does our gun hit the target? And in this case, we're using a gun that has such good control that I feel like I'd hit that target 10 out of 10 times.
Right, just by bunting the cue ball.
Yeah, so because the accuracy of our cue ball, our gun, is tighter than that target, it's just not a concern. Yeah, whereas actually bouncing over to here, we might have a little bit bigger target over here, but actually I'm moving my cue ball a lot, which means the gun gets worse quicker than the target gets bigger. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do, we should technically draw targets for every shot. If we wanted to be totally OCD, we draw a target for the 5, target for the 6. But really, the target for the 5 is somewhere where we can just roll it in. And then the target for the 6 is on the rail where we're not hooked. And then our goal is to come 1, 2 rails between these angles, and then come across 1, 2 rails to get on the good side of the shot line on the 8 to come across. And there might be an angle in here where we have to stun 1 rail across the line, in which case that could be a challenge because from here on the 7 ball, I can go 1, 2 rails, bump, dribble off the 2nd rail, and I'm always going to have this angle. From here, I can go high inside 3 rails, come along that line, I'm always going to have that angle. But if I have to use the stun shot, now my gun might not, I'm crossing the line with no railless brakes, I might not always be able to hit that target. So let's have a game plan for if we happen to pick up the stun angle on the 7 ball. If we do this, this gun is the only gun that's not accurate enough to hit that. So then the question is, how do I make this target bigger? Do I want to miss it here? Do I want to miss it here? And the answer is I'd rather come up short.
Right.
So if I get a stun angle on the 7, then I just play it, come 1 rail up to the middle, make sure I have a good shot on the 8. If I end up a little bit flat, if I have to roll forward for the 9 in the other corner, draw back, I'll deal with it. So sometimes there's an exception to different rules. Like this is the angle I'd like to have on the 8, but I don't want this so much that I'm going to risk getting here.
Right.
So if I get a stun, this is the only angle where I feel like I have an excuse not to hit that target. So I'm going to try running these out according to this plan. All right, so now my target on the rail is probably like 2nd and a half to 3rd diamond, and then I got to comfortably get off that 2nd rail. Okay, now, if you'll notice, this is the shot that we practiced yesterday. Center ball roll would take me to here, which means I'd be on the rail for the 8, or by the time I bounced out, I'd be too thin. A stun shot, my cue ball would fly around the table, and I'd have no control. So we're going to roll this in with a little outside to target the third diamond. And then get a good bump off that rail. And now, if you'll see it, this is actually a similar shot. If I used a center ball roll, my cue ball would follow through the tangent line, probably down to here, and get too thin on the 8, too thin on the 9. So I'm actually going to use outside English again, not a ton. But that'll shape me up nicely for the 9. I want to do this one more time just to feel how controlled that feels.
Okay, real quick, I do want to plug this because AJ Smith is saying this is an overlay that is super cool. AJ was here with us yesterday. This is done by the ICA Training system. I am sponsored by them. So if you check out their website, ICAtraining.com, I do have a discount code for their bundled package. It's the first product on their website. It's basically the entire system without a projector. So you still have to buy a projector. But my discount code is LC, and it gives you $50 off of the bundle. So thanks for being here, AJ, and thanks for everybody for watching.
All right, I'm going to do this one more time. Now, yeah, I can roll that in, but then I'm a little further from the 5, and I kind of like stunning over, so I'm just nice and close to this. I feel like I can really control my cue ball. And then this is the key shot, one of them. Yeah, I might have overhit that a little. So now you'll notice I ended up a little bit past where I was before. I could stun it, but I like, if I can get to this line with the high inside, I kind of like that, so I'm playing the line of position. That stun shot is just a little tougher to control. Now, this would be a roll with outside spin. Once I get thicker than half ball, it kind of turns into a more of a stun shot. It's too full to stun and to roll with outside. So now I'm gonna use that stun shot. So in general, guys, my rule is that when you're half ball or when you're thinner than half ball, you can roll with outside on that type of shot. When you're thicker than half ball, it kind of turns into a stun.
Awesome.
So anyway, that's kind of what I was expecting to have happen. And so for people that wanted to see something, like, I kind of stunned over for the 5, but I didn't really move much. I rolled the 5, rolled the 6, rolled the 7, rolled the 8, rolled the 9. My first rack, anyway, I was able to roll the 6 and then get that 2-rail angle for the 8 and that 1-rail angle for the 2-rail angle for the 7 and the 1-rail angle for the 8, using that same shot, roll with outside, roll with outside. The second time I did it, I got around thicker, but I was still able to roll with inside, and then I had to shoot a stun on the 8. So in general, both times I moved from the 6 to the 7, I used a rolling ball. Both times I moved from the 7 to the 8, I used a rolling ball. And then one time I got the stun angle on the 8. But it was a pretty natural stun. It was not like some hook draw with outside English or anything like that. So that's how I saw the pattern. And for me, I feel like I could do this until like the sun burns out. Whereas playing the 7 up in the other corner, I could dog it. And to be fair, on a 7-foot valley, the pockets are soft, the tables are small. Maybe it's just unmissable in the corner. I play at a 9-foot with tighter pockets where it didn't even occur to me to play that ball in the corner because I could just miss that ball. So maybe this table's right in the between. It's an 8-foot table. The pockets aren't tight, but they're not soft. It's not small, but it's not big. So as the table conditions change, I like what you did because of the minimal cue ball movement and your cue ball gun hit your target. I just feel like maybe I'm a little nervous about my shot making.
That's fine because I can admit that after I missed the 9 ball the first time, my next thought was to play the 6 ball 2 rails to get position on the 7, but I didn't diagram the zone like we did here.
Yeah, let's have you run them out a few times. Sure.
Looks like it's raining outside.
It's raining in my heart watching you play pool. No, I'm just kidding. This is sounding funny.
Okay, so high outside for the 2-railer. Definitely want to hit the fat part of 7-ball zone. Maybe too much.
I think you got the high inside 3-railer.
I do. I can try that. And this is the rolling outside.
Yeah, rolling outside. That is correct. Yeah, it's so pretty, man. You never have to use draw. You never have to hit the cue ball hard. The cue ball's very accurate. So basically, rolling shots with angles and spin are better move guns. You have better cue ball control, and it allows you to hit these smaller targets. So that with the targets we're creating are not just where can I be to make the ball, but where can I be to have a good gun for the next target. So our positional targets that we're creating are actually smaller because we're looking for good position. But because we're hitting good position, that gives us a better gun for the next shot, which allows us to get us good position again. And it stays in that positive as opposed to spiraling out of control. So I really like this. And it's also made me wonder, I wonder if training in the dark would be good practice. Like, then you train in the dark and then someday you turn on the lights and you never miss. I don't know. But I don't really know. I mean, we could try to 3-time drill this thing, but this to me, this run is kind of boring. I just wanted to start with something simple.
Okay. Do you want me to randomize this and see what else we get?
Yeah, let's clear this and hit me with a random 6-ball layup.
Okay. So
this thing is it's like magic, man.
yeah, this is an amazing system, I can tell you that.
You know what else is like magic? It's the sweet taste of Monster Zero Sugar Ultra Rosa.
Let's remove these lines. Okay, so we still have 6 balls on the table? Yes, we do. So I'm just going to hit the letter R.
Okay.
And
pretty cool.
Tell me what you think, or do we want a different one?
This one is tricky but challenging. So what do you? I mean, the challenge, of course, is what? What do you see as the big challenge of this run?
The 6 to the 7.
Yeah.
Which means
let's set them up. Let's try it. Let's try this.
The movement from the 5 to the 6 becomes critical.
Yeah. So let's. This looks interesting. So we're going to have the 4 ball here. Look at 5. It's purple. Okay. 5 goes there. 7 goes here. 8 goes here. And the 6 ball looks like it's about here. Ooh. And that 8 ball is blocking
the 3-railer to get back here for the 7 in the side.
Yeah. This one's interesting, huh? There's we've got some challenges. Now with ball in hand, I think I would have already pocketed the 4-9. But assuming that we don't do that, there are some cool options here, my friend. This is like my brain's going a million miles. Like, what are some possible solutions? I see like there's a bunch of different ideas we could try here.
Okay. Because the 6 ball's a duck, meaning that you can almost make it from anywhere. My thought is to play the 4 either here or here, but chances are I would play it here.
Okay.
And I would want to definitely have a little bit of a move angle on the 5, and I personally would attempt to take the risk of bumping the 7 and getting it into a position where I can move from the 6 and have access to more targets. Yeah, that's my first thought.
So you're right. So some things that work are moving the 7 ball. The other thing that we could do is move the 9 ball to open the 7 ball. So they both, either one that we could move.
Sure.
Those are both good. Another option could be, I'm not saying it's good. Maybe the 6 is a little too far from the pocket.
4-6 combination.
4-6 combination, which then allows us to move from the 5 to the 7 later. But first, it's a tough combo. Then getting the right angle on the 7 to get up to the 8, all that stuff. It's shooting the 7 shorts. It's a lot of tricky stuff. I'm not saying it's right, but these are all considerations. I like the fact that we're trying to figure out how to solve this 7 ball. And the other thing is we can even, moving it right now is risky, because if we move it right now, we'd have to make sure we get through it enough to get on that 5.
Correct. So that's why I elected from the 5 try to bump the 7.
And then there's one last option, which is just to try to get shape to get on the 7, which we didn't even really totally consider. It's the problem for me is that 8 ball so much in the way of where I'd like to be. Like if that 8 ball wasn't there, there's a target we can get on for the 7 over here, out here, and for the side, it's kind of like where that 4 is. So anywhere from here to here, I feel like I can make the 7.
Right.
And so with that 8 ball gone, I could use like a high inside 3-railer or even like a rail first, or lay the cue ball on the rail and kind of come around this way. But boy, that 8 ball is really blocking a lot of where I'd want to be. And I don't like using low outside and trying to zigzag at it. That's just a bad gun. So maybe we need to move the 7 ball, maybe or the 9. I think you're right on. And the only thing that's funny is, it's hard to get out here on the 5 ball because the 7's actually in the way of getting here. So part of me wonders if we could come across and either tick the bottom of the 7 a little bit, or I don't like this here. Maybe you're right. Maybe you can just stun and drag your cue ball over, and then give it a chance. I'm trying to think one more time if there's a way I can not have to move this 7 ball and still run out. Let me look at this 6 ball one last time.
Because otherwise, I mean,
that 8 ball.
Is there anything wrong with trying to line up for a 7-9 combo if we're just going to end the rack?
That sounds, the more we talk about it, the more reasonable that starts to sound. I don't love combos, but if the combo is easier than some of these trick shots to get. So what I'm eyeballing again and again is if we say we get out here, I'm just eyeballing if we hit rail first with a bunch of right spin, does it take us to the 3rd diamond for that 7 ball? Like that, doesn't it? So that answers your question. If you have to hit it let me just try one more time. It's not the right shot. Now, I'm pretty confident I can get there, but I don't think I can get there every time. So I caught that too thick. See, I'm looking at like that path there to get on 7.
Wow. What a shot.
But it took me 2 tries, right?
Yeah.
And so anything that takes 2 tries, it's like, well, you don't get 2 tries in a game. I don't know, man. Sorry, guys. This is a real, we're just really talking about real pool, and that sometimes things get a little chaotic. So, yeah, I'm okay with just moving the 7.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
Well, I have this gun. Not reliable, especially in the position I'm in. Definitely not going to be trying this pattern again, or this run out pattern.
Yeah. Oh, baby. You're good.
Yeah, not the cleanest, but I got it.
I figured it out. I figured out the solution. It took me a little while, but now I see the solution. I want to see if anyone in the chat has beat me to it.
7-9 combination.
Well, besides that.
Any updates?
Matt Wolf got it. Yep, Matt Wolf got it. We're going to shoot the 4 and follow and hit the 9.
Very cool.
You got it. Good job, Matt. Thanks for participating. You're absolutely right. It just took me. So the trick, it's a little risky. I can't hook myself beyond the 9, but as long as I can go into the 9 fairly full, and I only have to move it a couple inches. Like that.
And cut the 5. Does the 7 go now, though? That's the question, right?
It goes enough.
It goes enough.
I can always move the 9 again, but I think it goes enough. Okay. Now, generally speaking, I want a move angle on the 7. But if the pocket is even just, it's just a little distracted pocket, which means I want to get fairly full on it just to make sure I can make the ball. So I'm breaking a rule, guys. I'm breaking the rule, which is I'm not necessarily playing for a big angle because I really want to make sure I can make this ball. And then I'll just accept a little bit of a cut on the 8. And I'd rather have this shot on the 8 than miss the 7 trying to play for some move angle.
Uh-oh.
Okay. I hit that. You know what happened? You saw I wobbled it in thick. And even though it fell in, it changed the path of the cue ball enough that I scratched. I want to do this run one more time. I didn't move that ball as much as I'd like. Had I moved that 9 just a little more, then I could play for a nice angle on that 7 ball. And I don't have to shoot that 8 ball. So even if I make that 8 ball, I'm not saying it was perfect. But I don't want to mess with it too much. I got the same result, huh? Yeah, this one's a little bit better. All right, so now if I like, I don't know that I can really play. I don't want to be out here for the 7. So I'm going to try the same thing. Just get nice and close and where I can make it. I'm a little bit on the good side. Maybe I can wiggle it a little. This is pretty similar. All right, let's hit this one a little cleaner.
Very nice.
All right. Good call. I like Matt Wolf's suggestion.
So here's a question. I'm not sure if I understand it, but maybe I do. This is from Valuable Memories. This is, have you noticed any difference in the distance between your left aim hand and the cue ball as you aim and shoot? That sounds like bridge length?
Or how, yeah, either that or, so what do we have, why don't we clarify the question? Let's ask for some clarification there. Let's make sure we're answering the right question. Go ahead, Chris, try this out. Yeah.
What, this layout?
Yeah, this layout is kind of fun.
As you can see, this is what's so cool about this. You can even put a cue ball marker on here, and the cue ball will be randomized as well. So we might not be able to start with ball in hand. That's also an option.
I've seen you play your cue balls already randomized enough. No, come on, man. It's kind of fun. I'm so stupid.
Let's see. Whoops.
Okay, no good. That's a little too dicey.
Does that mean I'm just not flat enough?
Or you caught the wrong part of the pocket. So on a shot like this, the part of the pocket you strike is really critical.
There we go.
Nice shot, nice shot.
That's a little better.
Yeah, and you get the whole pocket and everything. Nice. Nice run, Chris.
I have a question, because I couldn't help but notice how it clearly is position oriented, condition oriented, or conditional.
6 to 7.
The 6 to the the 8 to the 9.
Oh yeah.
So
I would have just rolled it in. Yeah. Whatever.
But generally speaking, on your pattern, you rolled it all the way to the.
Yeah, I was thin. I was
a short rail.
So let me talk about what happened.
Do you have a rule of thumb between the two different routes, the 3 rail to the side rail or the 3 rail to the short rail?
Oh yeah.
That's my
I see what you mean. Well, here's on that 8 ball. I was really long, and so that's a fair question. The only problem with rolling it and coming 2 rails to here, is I would actually have to be using like a real low ball. Possibly like if I just stun this ball, with not a lot of spin, it's like at the corner. So for me to beat the corner, to get to the side rail, I would actually have to like draw it with left from distance, and draw from distance means I have to hit it. Like I could do it, but it just seems like it would. So it seems like it would take a really like a really good. I could do it. It just seems harder. Whereas like with a rolling ball from this, so I think if I was closer, I might have done that. But for like a distance like this, I wouldn't want to have to draw from this distance. So
okay.
I could just roll this, and all I have to do is beat the side, and I just go 2 rails long. Now I realize I scratched one time because I caught that ball real thick. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's just to answer your question. It was the distance.
Gotcha.
But the one thing I think is interesting about this run, and I want to talk about, is once we got to here, let's just say the 9's out of the way, and we get to here. Notice that we're leaving the cue ball on the side rail. We made a point to leave it on the side rail, so we had an angle on the 6. We had a move angle on the 6. But now we got to talk about exceptions. Every rule's got an exception. Ideally, we want to move from the 7 to the 8. So we would like some type of move angle. If I had a dream angle, I would like to be like half ball on this side of the ball where I could stun to the rail to here. I mean, this is kind of ideal. If I got on this side of the 7, I could follow 2 rails around. Where I don't want to be, like dead straight's a little awkward, and a little bit on this side where a follow takes me into the 9 and a draw takes me back this way, that's a little awkward. So there are some flat angles in here that are a little awkward. So if I was being like, according to my little rule, it's like, well, I need a move angle. But the problem is, to get a move angle, you don't want to be thin out here on the 7 where you're back cutting the 7. This is terrible. So the move angle on this side is a small target. And that 6 ball gun, you're crossing your angle. You're just not going to always get that perfect angle. And meanwhile, trying to get out here, there's really no good way to get out here from that 6. 2 rails, you don't want to risk the side. And 1 rail, you don't want to come flying up table and get too thin. So there was just no convenient way to get exactly here or exactly here. So this is one where it's like, it's better just to make sure we get to where we can make the ball. And then if it makes it a little bumpy, you'll notice it was a little bumpy for me to get from the 7 to the 8. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I needed a move angle and I was getting a hold angle. So then why did I do that? It's because there's just no good way to guarantee a move angle without risking the shot becoming too tough, especially with that 9 being a little distracting and taking away a little bit of the pocket. So what I did is I played it to where here's my shot line of the 7. I just played it to where I was the 3rd diamond to try to get a little bit on the good side of the 7 without really risking the scratch. And then hopefully get just a little bit of angle where I can wiggle a little out here. I didn't get that, so it's not the best. You played it the other way. You played it to come. Maybe it would be better. I have yet to pick up much angle on the 7. So I want to try it the way you played it, where I can go into this rail a lot sooner and cross the shot line on the 7. I gotta get out of the way here of the projector. You were playing it to come a little higher and come out on this side of the 7. And that guarantees an angle. Maybe I should do that. Maybe.
Let me be frank though, that like it wasn't planned out to that detail.
So if I come out with more right spin to get in that rail sooner, now I do have an angle on the 7, and there's a million ways I can get shape now. 1 rail with high is fine, which is what I did. I needed to flip them inside. So you know what? My runs, guys, Both times I played to get full on the 7. I did it because I was a little distracted on the pocketing, and I felt that if I got thin on the 7, it could be hard to bake. So to be fair to me, I was trying to make sure I could make that 7 into a little bit of a distracted pocket. However, if the 9 ball is completely cleared, so it's not really in play, what I was struggling with was I was getting a hold angle when I needed to move, resulted in a long or 8 ball, and one of them I ended up missing or catching thick enough that I scratched. This works better. So I want to run it one time the way you ran it. My goal is to clear the 9 entirely so that I can play for a nice move angle on the 7. Damn it. Are you serious with this 4-5? Emily. Okay. So why are we being so OCD and practicing and talking about this? I believe, guys, that when I do training, is that you don't sit there and, okay, here it is. When a musician, if you want to become a musician and learn to play an instrument really well, you sit there and print off 100 different songs worth of sheet music, and then you take one song and you put it up there and you look at it, and so then you get out your instrument and you look at it and you play it in real time once. You don't practice it, you don't break it down, you just sit there and you play through it once and sight read it. And anybody that's listening, you're squeaking and missing notes and the rhythm's off and it doesn't even sound recognizable as the song title that you're trying to play. And then you get to the end of that song and you take that piece of sheet music and you crumple it up and throw it away. And you never try that song again. You go on to the next piece of music and then you try to play that song terribly. And then you go to the next and you go to the next. Like, are we really learning to play our instrument well? I don't know. I think a musician warms up with scales, works on certain things during their warm-up, you know, certain techniques, fingering, whatever. And then when they get to their songs, they break it down note by note, measure by measure, until they can play one song that sounds beautiful. And then they learn another song. And little by little, there's overlap between the songs they learn. And with pool, it's the same thing. I have 10 core shots. There's only 10 shots I use, really. There's certain ideas I use. I would rather work on one 6-ball layout and pick it apart and try to figure out the right ways of blending the ideas and techniques to where it actually looks nice, rather than just sit there and hack my way through rack after rack, wobbling around, wobbling through a couple and dogging a bunch and just being like, I don't know, hopefully I'm getting better. I don't know. So that's my rant on that.
Love it. Let's get Tim in here again.
I don't care. I did the same thing. I'm a little mad. Now, to be fair, guys, if the risk of trying to move the 9 completely out of the way of the 7 ball is that we can't risk losing the cue ball. We don't get to hook ourselves. We don't get to roll up against the 5. You just don't get to do that. So I will blame that on a lack of focus. I believe I can do this. I didn't move it up there. Oh, it's a little tight. You know what? I can almost try to move it again here. Okay, I've fiddled with this enough to know it can be done, but Chris, now I want to try it a different way.
Okay.
We're not going to move the 9.
Okay.
Now we're not going to mess around with that. What we're going to do now is we're going to play for a big angle on the 6. And the question is, maybe we use the low outside 2 rails, and it's a bad gun, but we can get on the 7 on the side or the corner. So maybe we need a big angle on the 6, so we need to be out here on the 5, and we can just, come 2 rails with the line, or even just roll 1 rail up into space.
Okay.
Let's see what this looks like, because I'm kind of tired of messing around with that 9 and not opening up the pocket or running into the 5, or we haven't hooked ourselves yet, but that's coming next. I got a nice move angle here. So I want a big angle on the 6. Like my zone is anywhere from like this kitchen line to in front of the side. And so for that reason, I'm going 2 rails. So I'm playing with the line of the angle a little bit that I want. And then I wish I could use high inside 3 rails, but that 8's right in the way. So I'm just going to come at least to the 3rd diamond so that I don't scratch 2 rails on that side.
What a hit.
Now, I have to either draw the rail and cut the 8 from here. That seems pretty calm. It's also a little long. It's either that or I can use high outside. A little dicey with that side pocket, but I'm human, guys. I'm definitely, there's a reason I teach. I'm not competing full time. So when I see this run, the question is like, when do you try to move the ball and when do you try to just deal with the layout the way it is? And it's all relative, right? It depends. How accurate are you at moving that ball compared to how accurate are you with that low outside two-railer? And then it also kind of comes down to your shot making. People that shoot really, really, really straight generally don't like to mess around with the balls. Like maybe they would just settle for the 7-9 combo where they know I can always get a shot at the 7-9 and I shoot straight enough to make it. And it depends on how comfortable you are with the table. So when I watch a lot of the top pros, you know, I watch Filler, I watch all the Polish champions and these straight shooting guns, Wojciech and Wiesko Fortunski. Those guys, their shooting is really, really, really straight. And because they're traveling and playing in different countries on different equipment, the tables always have new cloth, the balls are very unpredictable, the rails are weird, the cloth is weird, the conditions are changing, and they're under a lot of pressure. And what I've seen is that they shoot so straight that they don't mess around with moving stuff around and try to tick the 9. Like I don't see Josh Filler trying to bump that 9 ball there. I see him accepting the 7-9 and just playing to get on it and trusting that he'll make it. Or trying to zigzag out of the 7 and figuring that he can recover with his shot making if he needs to. So the better you shoot, the more you want to just take what the table gives you. But if your cue ball's good and you feel comfortable on the table, there's a time and place. So it's always those are some questions. Again, there's not a right answer. It's just we talk about these are the questions we ask.
Okay, so I think we got some clarification here from Valuable Memories. It says when you're down aiming just before taking the shot, they notice that a lot of players use a lot of distance between their aim hand and the cue ball. So that sounds like bridge length, which makes them miss more. And then they follow up by saying they see some pros have their aim hand closer to the cue ball, which is clearly the bridge length, as they shoot and miss less shots. So I was wondering if you noticed any difference between using long or short.
You asked me about this yesterday. So here's the funny part about the balance with bridge and stroke length. One disclosure is there's a difference between bridge length and stroke length. So like Alex Pagulayan, he'll use like a really long bridge, but then he only comes back a little ways. So it's not just bridge length, it's also how long the stroke length. But what I told Chris yesterday, because you remarked that a couple of my bridges were really long, and you said, well, doesn't that lead to less accuracy? So in theory, if you get really close to the cue ball, you're going to be more accurate because as you swing, there's just a little wiggle. It's going to translate into less wobble on the cue ball. But there's a problem. The closer I am, the quicker I have to accelerate to get up to speed, which means the more muscle is needed to get my cue moving. And the more muscle I use, the more likely my cue is to wobble. So it's almost like how inaccurate is my strike is, well, how much wobble is there and how far away am I? And as it turns out, if you get further back, wobble, or like a little wiggle in my stroke will hurt me more. However, I have more room to accelerate, which means I don't need to accelerate quickly. I don't need to use muscle to get my cue up to speed, which means there's not wobble in my stroke. So a longer swing allows me to swing slower, which actually improves the accuracy of the swing to a point. But then if you get too far back, now any imperfection is magnified so much that the fact that I can move my cue slow is no longer going to compensate. So it's like too short, you have to use too much muscle, and there's going to be too many stroking errors. Too long, any tiny stroking error is going to magnify too much. So there's a happy medium, which is like long enough that you can not use muscle, but then close enough that you're not fairly inaccurate. And so that usually depends on the power of the shot. So I think that a lot of players, like on a power shot, 10 to 12 inches, gives you room that you don't have to muscle the ball, but you're not way back here, So there's more to it than just closer is more accurate. There's the balancing act going on.
Okay. Do we want another pattern? Or?
Yeah, let's look at another pattern. This one was kind of a trick one.
And let me hit the letter R.
Huh.
And there we go.
Okay.
What do we think of this one?
Yeah, this one's cool. I like this one a lot. So I guess I can set them up. Purple ball goes here. Purple ball goes here. I got you. Purple ball goes there. That 9 ball's in the middle of the table, blocks everything. It's like some drill.
I actually don't see. Unless I'm mistaken, the key transition is from the 7 to the 8. So if I get flat on the 8, stop shot, stop shot. And so really, I'm looking at a soft roll for the. I could even play the 4 in the closest side to get semi-flat on the 5 if I wanted to. I want a move angle on the 6, so I can generate a move angle on the 7 to get flat on the 8.
Yeah, so using my rules, my ideas, it's like, well, pull on the 8 is good. Move on the 7 is good. So how do I get move on the 7 is I need move on the 6. The problem with that is that the 9's in the middle of everything. And it blocks off a lot of where we want to move to from this 5 to the 6 and from the 6 to the 7. So if this 9 wasn't here, that's exactly how I would see this table. If the 9 wasn't here, I'd be seeing, I'd love to be here on the 6 so I could get a nice move angle, on the 7 and then come across for the 8.
Okay.
The problem is with this 9 in the way, it blocks a lot of the area I'd like to be to move on the 6 and move on the 7. So now, I feel like instead of that, I just get straight on the 6, park the cue ball near the rail, and just follow the end rail out. So this is kind of, there's always exceptions to every rule because of the 9 ball there. So let's do it once with the 9 ball here, and then let's move the 9 ball to the rack area and see how that changes the run-up.
Sure.
So I'm with you. This is, I'll do it, you do it. This is pretty standard. We just want to be full on the 6 or a little bit on the far side of the shot line where we can rock into the rail, right? Oh boy, I hit that ball like a million miles an hour. I'm talking. This is not easy to talk and play. Remember I said that yesterday? You actually have to try when you play pool. Octagonal shock. Purple 5 balls. What's going on with the world? I didn't even get good on the 5 ball here. I got a lot of cut angle. All right. Fortunately, seems reasonable. All right, go ahead, Chris.
Okay.
All right, that was a little sloppy with the 4 or 5, but whatever. It's never perfect. So the hard part, I happen to pick up a full angle on the 6, but if I ended up like on the rail backcutting the 6, I couldn't have done that. And if I ended up too thin on the 6, I might not have been able to do it on either side. In other words, you kind of need a whole angle on the 6 for it to go this way.
Oops.
Yeah, I got a little funny, huh?
Yeah.
Let's try this again. This is no good.
Yeah, because I'm flat now.
So now, I think that both of us fell for something. Neither one of us took this 4 or 5 very seriously. And it shows that you can get careless and everything's going to go wrong. So now, come on over and look at this 4 or 5. We either have to get, like, in order to get on the spot, like, straight in's not the best. But a lot of angles not the best. We have a small target. Now, we should be able to hit it with a good gun. But both first time I ran into the 5. The second time I got a little thin. You got a little flat. So we're 0 for 3 for getting good on the 5 to get good on the 6.
Right.
So the idea of playing the 5 over there and just stunning across the shot line for some kind of move angle is not the worst idea ever. If you're going to play it this way, that's fine. But let's come around and let's really pick our target. I think this is still the right way to go. I just think that we need to give this more respect.
Okay.
That's not a you thing. That's a me and you thing. the right answer is over here, but we need to create a target. So like to me, straight in's not quite good. This stand is not quite good. So we've got between straight in and this stand, we've got a little patch here. So let me just have you, pick this up. You can roll this, you can just roll this in with a tip of right and just bump 2 or 3 inches off the rail. That's fine. That's fine right there.
Okay.
We just need to create a target and bear down and hit it. Beautiful, beautiful. Nice. And I don't mind the distance because sometimes distance means more than, or the angle means a lot more than the distance. Here, at least he's got a nice rolling center. Everything's natural, everything's routine. And scratch the side. Okay, that's.
But now I can't hold for the.
Yeah, so now just use high left and go to the second rail. Hey-oh.
Just because.
That's cool. All right, good run, good run. So, let me tell you guys, so a lot of this stuff, by the way, I'm in this weird mix where obviously we appreciate you guys tuning in, and I expect and hope that a lot of this is valuable for you guys. At the same time, I'm also just practicing with Chris, and this is just sometimes how I train, and not just how I train my students, but like, no, this is how I train, is I work on stuff and I break it down. So I'm just trying to walk the walk and show you guys what I go through when I practice. And I know that the way I go through racks, the way I think through racks and connect shots through racks, I'm hoping that you guys pick some things up from this. What I'd like you to pick up from this 4-5 is, we messed it up the first 3 times. The first 2 times I played it, I got funny. The first time you played it, you got funny. And so, here's what I think. I think about this sometimes. When somebody plays a 9-ball set, and they get down to the 9-ball, and they have an easy 9 for the win, and they miss it, they usually get pretty upset with themselves. Like, man, that was such an easy shot. How did I miss that 9? And now I'm driving home and I could have won that set. And what a donkey. I wish people got just as upset when they missed this transition to this target. Because if I set up a target, like we highlighted it, and we said how many times, let's do this. I think this is worth doing. So let me have you create a target for this 5-ball.
Sure. Leave. Do you want just lines?
A line, yep.
Okay.
This cue ball, this is like the back of the line. It's like right here.
So starting from there?
Yep.
Okay, so I think I do that. And line starts from there. Okay.
So then it goes to about actually to about here. That's fine. Okay.
And
Oh,
is there anywhere
other
else?
side. Other side. It's going to go to about here. Yep. That's fine. Just
Really
leave that.
small target.
So it's a small target. But here's the thing. Suppose the monster, man, that monster's kicking it. Okay. Suppose there was a proposition bet. And I said, Chris, you have to shoot 5 balls. And every time you get your cue ball in this triangle, I'll pay you $100. And every time you don't get your cue ball in this triangle, you pay me $100. How many times out of 5 do you think you'd hit that triangle? I'm thinking I'm like 4 out of 5.
I was going to say 3 out of 5.
So let me see here. That's 1. That's 2. Three. 2 more. If this is boring, that's good. Should be boring.
You're doing it right.
Uh-oh. I missed one. I even got a good angle. Honestly, in a game, that would still work, right? I'm still on the right angle, and I'm still off the rail. It's even hard to count that as a fail, guys. Last one. Okay, so like 4 out of 5. We'll call that 4 out of 5. And actually, all of those would have worked. I'm not thrilled with that one. So here's the point. If I could do this almost every time, then if I don't do it twice in a row, and you don't do it the first time, it's like every time we get funny on that ball. Now, I had to like elevate and spear one rail over. What if I ended up back cutting on the 6 and then it gets funny on the 7? Or Chris ended up long on the 6 where he had to like stun it and he ended up flat on the 7, and that could lead to some tough. So say in a tournament, what happened to Chris? You know, he gets a little full, punches over, ends up long on the 6, ends up straight on the 7, ends up thin on the 8, ends up missing the 8. And he ends up losing that match. Why did he lose the match? Because he didn't get here. So when people do that, when people buzzsaw into a straight-in angle on the 7 and don't run it, it's because they didn't get there. And then the question is, why didn't they get there? What are some of the reasons they didn't get there? Well, one is they didn't create the right target. They just didn't take the time to really say, this is where I need to be. That could be one reason. The second reason is they just aren't able to hit that target with their cue ball. And the last reason is they just didn't think it matters. They didn't have enough sense of importance on this. They didn't prioritize this enough. And maybe those things overlap. Maybe the target creation wasn't clear enough because they didn't give it enough priority. And so, but we just learned that if you miss this target, it could lead to the end of your run. So I look at this and I'm like, creating these targets and hitting these targets. If I can do it 5 out of 5 and not doing it can cost me the rack, then not hitting that target's like missing the 9. And I need to treat it with that amount of priority. That's all I'm trying to say. It's like, I just think we need to give that more respect.
Makes sense?
Okay. So now, let's move this 9 ball.
Okay.
And let's move the 9 ball. Where do I want to move it? Let's move the 9 ball. I know where I want to move it. To this side rail up here. Good.
Okay. That changes everything. No, I don't think we necessarily need this anymore.
Let's leave it. I mean,
leave it?
Well, let's see. Where do we want to get on this stuff? Because now everything's changed. We want move angles on the 8. We want move angles on the 7, which means we kind of want move angles on the 6, right?
All right.
So, yeah, you're probably right. You're right. We can clear that now. I'm sorry. You're just a step ahead of me. I'm still back in the... So let's start thinking about targets. Where do we need to be on the 8 ball? Let's create an 8 ball zone to get on the 9.
Well, I like what is it, the rolling outside?
Yeah, or side-split Wago wheel. This is like a side-split Wago wheel workout.
So anywhere about...
Yeah, that's right. We wouldn't want to be much thinner than that.
So starting here. Line and head towards the 8.
Perfect.
So,
yeah, we wouldn't want to be any closer than this. So there you go. And then we could be back a ways. We could be back to... I mean, that's fine. That's fine. That angle's good. And then we could be we wouldn't want to be any more full. Then, hang on, where are we going? Can you clear that line? That's a little goofy. I don't like that line. Because it's coming from the... So let's look at how thick we can be. I mean, this is similar. If we get here, we can use high inside.
Mm-hmm.
If we get out here, we can either roll with spin or stun some which way. So I think like from there, yeah, we've got from like here to here.
Does it matter how close?
Yeah, we wouldn't want to be any closer than this so we could reach it. And then we wouldn't want to be any longer and thinner than like this. Oh no, it's not. The line's not coming from here. It's kind of coming from here though.
Okay, I'll move it.
Okay.
Or hang on, let me just do this. Remove segment. And like I said, right about here.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to be any thinner than this.
Out to
But it doesn't come straight back. The longer we get, the thicker we want to be. So we don't mind being this thin when we're close, but as we get further, we want to be a little thicker because it's harder to make it accurate. So that's actually not exactly conical, it's perfect. So this is our 8-ball zone. Okay, so now to get to that zone, where do we want to be on the 7-ball? And as it turns out,
Roughly the same place.
well, a stun angle on the stun angle on the 7 is actually really good because we can really control our speed. If we get a thin angle on the 7, now we've got to come 2 rails into this zone, which can be done, but it's not my preference. So yeah, I'd say it's kind of the same on this side, like from here to about here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, you can sketch it out.
Okay. So I heard you say.
Yeah, this I could live with this right here, yep. Down my cue. I don't mind being a little close because that's a little too close. Good enough. Because I mean, I'm going to be able to reach that. And then we're good out to like, yeah, we wouldn't want to be any thicker than like, yeah, that's fine. What you just did is fine.
Okay.
Okay, so that angle is kind of where the angle we need to be on the 7. Now, ideally, I'd like it, I usually sketch out the back of the zone, like where is it good? I'd say like here. So now on the 6-ball, we don't want to be straight. We'd like a nice move angle. And a stun angle is okay, but really having a nice big angle where we come 1, 2 rails and out is even better. So this is all the same angle. This is like a size of the wiggle wheel shot. This is the thinnest I want to be on the 6. Can you sketch that one?
Sure.
That's good. And then on the other side, I wouldn't really want to be any thicker than this. Good. Okay, so this is our 6-ball cone, our 7-ball cone, our 8-ball cone. So then to get to this cone, actually straight on the 5 is not that bad, right? Because we can just kind of float it back a little bit and be in that target. But even ideally, we'd almost rather be on this side of the 5, where we can start the rail and come along that line and be a little thin on the 7. So the thinnest I'd want to be on the 5, I would not want to be so thin on the 5 that I have to control my speed with like a soft touch. Like this is too thin. But like, this is probably fine, right?
Yeah.
So let's start our line there. We're going to just do one more cone. We're not going to draw a zone for the 9. We're not going to draw a zone for the 4. But there's from there to the 5. And then I'm probably good all the way to like straight in on the 5. Okay. So as I'm seeing it, this is our 5-ball zone. That's our 6-ball cone, 7-ball cone, 8-ball cone. We're managing our angles.
Center of the table.
Yeah, and so if I can get out here on the good side, I can stun the rail with a little outside and come towards the 6, and then either becoming 1 rail back. And honestly, guys, I think I'd really prefer to be thin on the 6, so I can roll with outside and come 2 rails for the 7, so I can roll with outside for the 8, so I can roll without. If I do this right, it's going to be a lot of rolls with outside. But if I end up stun angles, that's okay too. I mean, I can follow across the line of position. It's a little dicey. I'm a little close to it, but it's a good gun. Now I want to creepy crawl down the thin side of the 6-ball zone, a little outside. I got a little bit thin. Is this an issue? My lines are usually so accurate and so small that as long as this is a little off my line, but it's going to work. And now if you look at my angle on the 7, I'm on the thin side, which means I'm going to have to go 2 rails, and here's the line on that 8-ball. So I need to get a good 2 diamonds off the 2nd rail. I'm not thrilled about this. I really have to hit that ball to make sure I got an angle on that 8. Now, I think this is still a roll with outside. I don't think that was a stun. I think that was a roll with outside. Okay, so it worked. What went wrong? I didn't like, I got too thin on the 6, and I didn't like having to go 2 rails from the 7 to the 8. I mean, it's within tolerance. That part was within tolerance. I want to do one more. And then you can try it.
Sure.
A couple times. So when we get a suboptimal angle, like I had to go 2 rails from the 7 to the 8, it still works. But every time it gets tougher than it needs to be, you add a little bit of risk. And you gamble, and the less you gamble, the less you lose. That's all. Okay. That one, I didn't really get through it enough. I could do this, but you know what? We're playing to hit zones, not to run out. I knew this 4 ball was a little touchy. There might be other ways to play it. Okay, I got it this time. So now I can kind of come straight back. All right, now is this a stun or a roll? I think this could be done either way. Let's take a look at this one, Chris. What do you think? Come on over and look at the 6 ball angle. Do you think this is a stun or a roll to get on the 7, and why?
That looks like a stun. I think if you roll, you're going to see too far through the tangent line.
I'm going to be shooting the 7 from a long way away,
yes.
Right? Yeah. Sometimes sometimes the question I ask though is like, would I rather have the perfect angle and be a little long, or would I rather get a little closer and risk hitting a bad angle? So sometimes there's a time if I really needed the exact angle, sometimes I'll play this with a roll and accept the distance. But I think you're right on.
So here's a question though before you shoot,
Yep.
because if you're still going to roll it with outside, okay, fine, but
No, I'm going to stun it.
You're going to stun it. So are you going to try to stun it into the zone, or are you going to 2 rail it?
Yeah, here's my zone. So anywhere across this line, I have enough landing strip. I should be okay.
So why is the high inside 3 rail?
Because the 8 ball's in the way.
Okay.
Yeah, if the 8 ball wasn't there, I would go high inside.
Okay.
And I could go 2 rails if I wanted to, but it's not needed here.
Okay. That answers my question.
Now, what I like about this is now I'm on a thicker side on the 7 ball, so I can stun again and come back towards where I'm at again. And keep it nice and thin on the 8. Now I get to use our wagon wheel and come. Now, instead of shooting the 9 from here, my spin will take more and I can get to that 3rd diamond. Close enough. That's not perfect. It's never enough. Never good enough. Never good enough, is it, Dad? All right, go ahead, Chris. Okay. So neither is perfect, but they're both fine. I mean, it's fine. It's the best I can do in the dark. It's the best I can do in the dark. So S3204 says, what are your thoughts on short side on the 4 to the middle bottom pocket?
That was I think that was the previous pattern
Oh, okay.
that we were messing around
Oh,
with.
yeah. I got you with that 9 tied up. Yep.
With the 9 ball in the middle of the table.
I did that once too. I know better. It's like when you're close to the ball, when you're shooting these follow shots full, the object ball takes all your speed, and it takes a little bit more oomph than you'd think to get through it. Good shot. That's perfect. Oh, did you roll that with spin?
I did.
Set that up again. That's a stun. That's a stun. You're a little bit half ballish, and you're trying to kind of come back. Like even the middle of the table is not as thin as you want to be. So this one you stun and try to come down the thin side of the 6 ball zone.
Okay.
A little bit. that's fine.
Okay. Then
Yep.
let me start from the beginning.
Okay.
I don't believe this to be a stun.
I think it is. I think it is. If we wanted to get to the middle of the table, you could roll it outside. I mean, I guess that's okay. Let me see it from here. I think that you could stun and crawl up this line because we don't line out ending up all the way here. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
I think I'd stun it with just a half tip outside here. Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding me?
And maybe you're missing it, Dick, because you're trying to hold the cue ball. You know, you're afraid of overrunning the shape or something.
I am.
And so that's people's fear of hitting a little thick. But you know what? Maybe it is rolled outside and you accept a little thicker angle on the six. I don't know. And you can do it either way. It's not one or the other. I'm sorry. I grabbed the steering wheel again on you. Should have let you drive. And then this is either a stun or you can even just drag it back a foot or two. Here, you know what angle we want on the 7. This is one where I think you don't need to go 2 rails. I think you could just come 1 rail out with a rolling outside. Like that. And here, the distance is such that if you try to stun back, you like stunning back. I almost like rolling this in with a tip of right and just settling for like the spot. You know, because trying to stun this ball, you could get straight on the 8 or lose cross side. You know what I mean? I think you don't. I think you just kind of. You don't have to bunt it in, but I think you can just kind of roll it in. Yeah, and then here, you know, you have a choice. You could either go inside, or you could maybe stun. I don't know if this might not quite be a roll. This could probably be just a straight stun. Yeah. Great shoot. Okay, so anyway, there's different ways we can play all these things, and I mean, it's you kind of have to see the angle and be at the table. A couple little points. We both had one where we drew back off the 5. Now, I was talking about how I don't like to draw the ball. There's a big difference between when you're table length away, shooting firm and trying to draw 6 feet, versus when you're a couple feet away trying to draw back a foot. You know, it's just a cue speed required to do what we did. You hit that light and floaty. I don't mind 12-inch draws once in a while. It's the long power draws I don't like. The second thing the only reason I even took the time to draw these zones and talk through this pattern is I just wanted people to see from the shot that we worked on yesterday how often that shot comes up. Now, not every time. Sometimes we get stun angles on the 7 or 8, but there's times during these runs where we might end up using that side spin wagon wheel shot, cut down the rail with spin. We might end up using that on the 6, the 7, and the 8. So it's like it could come up as many as like 3 times in a 6-ball run. It's just very common. You use that type of maneuver. So when you're trying to get on balls down the rail to hold, yeah, we're going to get full on the ball. But when we start having to move with balls down the rail, a lot of times I like that nice cut angle with a little outside to kind of go back and forth. So I just wanted them to see how often that can come up.
Good.
Okay, let's clear all the lines and turn on the lights, and let's play like a Scotch doubles set against the 6-ball ghost.
Okay.
Let's just talk some patterns because I like to do 2 things. I like to do quality and I like to do quantity. So we did 3 racks where we kind of studied them a little bit deeper, and now we're going to look at a bunch of racks in real time with that scorekeeper over there. We're going to do this, Chris. We're going to throw 7 balls out. Usually 1 falls. If not, we take down the lowest ball. We're not going to break open clusters. So if we throw it out and we can't even make ball in hand, then we'll just have to deal with that.
Okay.
So we assume that we're going to play a race to 7.
Okay.
So we assume that there's going to be 2 racks that are just totally unrunnable because of clusters.
Okay.
So mentally, this is a good trick for you guys. I used to play this guy named Tim. I won't say his last name, but anyway, when I was like 15. and he was 18, and he just beat me and beat me and beat me and beat me. And he was kind of a bully. And then one day I got good enough to where I could beat him, and he didn't want to play me anymore. So I started having to give him a handicap. So I gave him a wild 7-8. And we'd play these sets, and I was like 16. And even though I was a better player, he would unnerve me because every rack on the 1 ball, he wouldn't even try to run the table. He would just blast the 1 at the 7 or blast the 1 at the 8 and get him rolling around. And anytime the 1 or 7 or 8 were anywhere, or the 9 were anywhere near each other, he just blast them and fly them around the table. And then a lot of times, like sometimes one of them would slop in, and I'd be like, oh my God, that's terrible. And it used to, like, every time he got down to line up and just cram the 1 into the 7-8, I'd always like cringe and wince and be like on pins and needles, like, oh, don't let anything bad. Oh man, it went in. And finally, one day I learned something. I was like, wait a second. I've played this guy 10 sets like this. We always play like races to 7. Every set, he slops in like 1 or 2 money balls. Every set. But it's never 4 or 5. But it's almost always 1 or 2. So what I did is I'm like, well, tell you what, I'm giving him the wild 7-8. In my mind, I'm going to give him the wild 7-8 in 2 games. In my mind, I'm just going to spot him 2 games and assume that he's going to slop in 2 7 balls. And then as we played, whenever he got down to blast, in my mind, as soon as we flipped the coin, I'm down 2-0. And then when we start playing, every time he gets down and starts like smiling and blasting the money balls, instead of being nervous, I'd be like, go ahead. You get 2. If that's your 2, go ahead. Waste your turn blasting those balls around. You get 2 of them. Oh, one of them went in. Great, that's one of them. It didn't bother me anymore. And I just kind of budgeted for that. So what I've learned about playing the Ghost is that for those that like to play the Ghost is that you're going to get a couple racks that are almost unrunnable. If you play a race to 7 against a 6-ball Ghost, you're going to get 2 racks that are just like a series of clusters and trick shots. So we're down 2-0. And then when those racks come up, we just kind of mentally forfeit those racks. Now, that we try. And if we happen to freewheel through them, hey, that's great. Anyway, that's how I look at the 6-ball Ghost. We'll alternate who goes first and see how it goes. So the 3-ball comes down. Oops, I bumped the 5. Okay. So we want to be down here for the 5, come out for the 6. Everything's hanging. We probably would like a little angle on the 8. Okay. So here's our side spin wiggle wheel, guys. How do I get from the 4 to right up here? I give myself a move angle and roll this in with outside. And now he can roll this in. He's got a move angle here to roll this in with outside, back, across the middle of the table. This is easy. I love this game. I got a little fold on 6. I've got a little hold angle, but that's okay. We'll just have to back up a little. So I would have liked to have been closer to the middle where I could follow one rail out, but if this is bad, I can live with it. And now if you can just kind of roll me back to the middle of the table. We don't need to use inside, just you won't get me straight. Oh! All right. So in my mind, guys, the reason he missed that 7 ball is because he got me straight on the 6. I try to draw back a little, but it's just not quite. It's just everything gets a little bit off. So that's okay. No problem. Let's try it. You're up first. And remember what I said yesterday? How many runs end? How many runs end because you get a hold angle when you want to move? Well, we got a hold angle when we wanted to move, and then 2 shots later we miss. I just want people to see that, because once you see that, it's amazing. Okay, go ahead, Chris, kick us off. We need a move angle from the 7, obviously, and we can't be going into the 9 ball. So that means we need to be out here on the 7. So yeah, that's all.
Do you care being flat on the 5 for the 6 on the side to generate your move?
Or the 6 over here. I think just get me close on the 5. I don't really think there's a bad angle. Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, and I generally don't play for the sides very often. I'm probably just going to pop back for the corner. Stun. nice. So now you know what angle to get me. Anywhere from like here to even with just even with it. Beautiful. And now we've talked about this second diamond is as thick as I want to be. Third diamond is as thin as I want to be. And that there's my cone, there's my target. Rolling ball, outside spin. I didn't really get off the second rail as much as I'd like. Yeah, that's not bad. And then, what do you think? High inside 2 rails?
Yep.
And this is that line that from second diamond to second diamond I think Hector asked about yesterday. And I did the same thing yesterday. It's a weird hit on this table. It's okay. It's okay. All right, let's see what we get here. Uh-oh. Okay, the 8's a little covered. The 5's a little covered. So the 5 to the 6 is kind of a feast. Couple options. So one option that I really like is just to try to get really, really, really close to the 5 so that we can be accurate with whatever we do. That's one option. The other option is to fram into the 6 and try to make it better, but it's, I don't know, man. Oh, you know what? I wonder if there's a way, because getting really close to it over there, this is no good. I'm going into the point. You're never going to like it over here. I was just seeing if there's a way out here. Do you see anything better than getting really, really, really close to it? I think getting close to it and then just having to pull it out of there a little bit and making a hard shot with the 6. I don't see anything better.
I agree.
Okay. I'm the one shooting the 6, so. Giving myself a nice move angle. Yeah, I didn't get you really, really, really close to it. So do your best and I'll do my best, and it is what it is. This is kind of one of our true racks. That's a hell of a shot. Hell of a shot.
Thank you. Your 6 was better.
All right, we stole a rack. We weren't supposed to run that one out. That was supposed to be one of the 2 that it was super tough. Oh, 9 ball. I love this country. All right. Let's see. After I throw this 9 ball, where this is. Oh, that changes things. Okay, so the 3 comes down. You're up first. So we've got a lot of movement from what, the 5 to the 6. And after that, everything's routine. So guess where I want to be, Chris? You know me. There's a couple places we can go, but where do you think I want to be on the 5 ball?
I'd imagine practically where the cue ball's at. You can draw.
Well, I
back
could full on draw back, or I could go high inside. I mean, it's hard to argue with drawing back sometimes, but just in the principle of things, why don't you just roll me out where I have an angle, and I can go high inside 3 rails.
Okay.
Once I'm out of the kitchen, once I'm out, even towards the middle of the table. Middle of the table's fine. Yeah. In general, I like to move with angles instead of draw. And if I get straight in on the rail, that's a problem. So anybody that thinks it's all open from here, it's like, well, but I also ask myself a question. If I ask myself, if I freeze on the end rail, is that a problem? Because a lot of times people just fling their ball up table and end up frozen on the end rail. And they're like, oh my God, there's a problem. It's like, well, does this work? In this case, if I get frozen on the end rail, it's not the end of the world. You can still back up the 6. So knowing that, I can go ahead and play to get off the 4th rail. That way you're not straight in on the rail. And yeah, I could go for the side. That's fine. We don't need any particular angles on any of these balls. They're all hanging now.
Two to two.
Whoop-de-doo, I can do that too. All right, let's do this. 2 to 2. All right. So the 5 to the 6. Well, we could be full on the 5 because we can stop and have a good shot at the 6. Really, that's not bad. It's just the 4 ball we don't want to be straight on, really. So I'm thinking we'd want to be like on this side of the 4 to kind of come 2 rails towards the 5. So this is our angle that we'd like, so I can get there 1 rail down that line. Not the line of the shot, but the line of the angle that we want. Big difference. And if I get too full to go 2 rails, you can also go 1 rail. Yeah, 1 rail's fine, either way. And here I can go 2 again. It's no problem if I can. Little back cut. I want to be a little careful with how I do this. I don't want to get hooked. I don't want to get too thin on the 6. I'm just going to play this with the outside and make a point of going 2 rails. Seems good. I'm not worried about the angle on the 7 as long as we can make it. So you can stun 2 rails or use high inside, whatever you like better.
Stun 2 rails for this corner?
Yeah, that's what I might do, just because high inside. If you could reach it and comfortably make it with high inside, that's fine, but it seems like you got to use a lot of spin, you know? Nice shot. Thank you. Very nice. Yeah, good job. And it's hard for Chris because I'm telling him to shoot certain shots that, you know, even if he would have done the same thing, it's like, it's always tough when you got somebody telling you what to do. So good job working through this. Okay. So you're up first. I mean, the 6 to the 7 seems like the critical transition of this rack. And the good news is we can be straight on the 7 because all we have to do is hold for the 8. So if playing short side is reasonable, because playing for this side, the 9's in play and the side pocket's in play. So it's like dealing with the side and the 9, trying to come this way is a little dicey. So just playing this for the side, kind of either coming 1 or 2 rails back for the 7 up there seems reasonable. What do you think? Mm-hmm. So then in order to do that, you got to get me fairly full on the 5 without hooking me. How full? I think once you get to this dotted line, for the break line, yeah, down that dotted line, it's right there like the control of the system. I'm trying to think of like something that looks like some galaxy of chalk marks. All right, and I'm not really worried about the angle here as long as I'm not dead straight. Yeah, so here, obviously, this is one rail. Okay, a little shy.
Thought I hit it harder than that.
Here's our good old size for the wagon wheel. How people play pool without that shot, I'll never know. All right, you break. Let me mark the score. I get to mark the score one time. Hey. It even says Little Chris on it. Look at that.
Yeah, that is from Moonlighting Billiards. They make the scoreboard. You can actually customize them.
That's cool. Very cool. Yeah. I don't know. You should probably have a collide in the middle. Sometimes I have a collide off the end rail and I get a lot of clusters. Like that, whatever. That's fine. That's a good break. Good break, Chris. All right, so the 3 comes down about first because it's even. So this 5 ball doesn't really go anywhere. So everything's about, once we pocket the 5, the rack's over. Kind of. So, you're the one shooting it. I mean, I guess it goes in the sides, especially this side over there. That's probably right. Get ready to make a dicey shot. So if we'd love to be here, I don't want to risk hooking you, so I need to be hitting like second diamond. Oh man, I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to get you. I meant to get you half an inch past that, but see what you can do.
You
Just make it. I mean, just make it and get me out of here. Yeah, just rock over a little bit. Once we get to the middle of the table, I'm good. Middle of the table.
Oh, you want the middle? I was coming all the way up here.
You can do that too. That's easy. If I left you too much angle where that would be a slow speed, then yeah, you can just kind of. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
I feel like I'm getting more comfortable with that 2-inch start. I'm still going to be working on it.
Nice shoot. Nice shoot.
Thank you.
All right. 5-2. Uh-oh. This could be an unrunnable rack. 3 comes down. It's your shot first. Maybe we just play short side on the 6, huh?
Looks like it.
All right.
That requires
Yeah.
to be here, so not a lot of movement from the 4 to the 5 then.
Yep,
I want to get
yep.
you straight in.
Yeah, so you got it. So he's going to shoot a stun shot right down the shot line and just kind of get me back to where he's at right now. He's not going to move it too much because the angle needs more than the distance. And again, I'm not going to risk moving the cue ball too much here. I understand stopping leaves you like flat where we might end up with a harder 7-ball shot. But if I try to move this, I don't want to risk getting hooked or getting to where we can't make the 6. If it wiggles over a hair, that's fine. I'm basically just going to stop my ball. That's pretty good. And then, I never want to shoot that in the side. So the question is, you know what? Can you just get me here? I think you just settle for the other side of the 8 ball. Just make this ball. If you want to, yeah, if you want to stun around the 8, I suppose you could. I like center ball pop maybe. Hang on, let's. Yeah,
Well,
or is it easier to just stun it here?
We are, because you said we can't break out clusters. Does that also include we can't bump balls?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to hit anything really here. I mean, I think it's probably easier just to pop out to here, right?
Okay.
Would you?
I'm-
That seems easier. Yeah,
I'm
let's
fine
just
with that.
keep it simple. Nice shot. Or you could have drawn a 9 in the corner, but you know, it was in the big ball position. Everything okay. I meant to get a little further, but it was a tough enough shot that honestly I'm happy I made it and that you got a good shot. What do you like here, Chris? You just roll this in with a little outside and put me here?
Well, I want to go. I was going to ask you because I want to go here, here, and back over.
I think that's too much power, too much movement. What about if you rolled this in with outside? Do you think you can beat this line, like get me out here? I think you can.
I can try.
Yeah, just don't spin the hell out of it. Just like a tip of left, and just kind of don't bunt it, don't spin it. Just kind of roll it in with a tip of left. Just float it in with a tip of left. Yeah, this is fine. Let's not do anything more complicated than that. You're gonna split the difficulty between the 2 shots. All right, not easy, but not bad. Oh, look at that. How did we get on the hill? 6 in a row, huh? All right, I'm up first. All right, 3, 4. We've made too many balls. Uh-oh, we got more clusters coming. No, we don't. All right, so the 3 to the 4 to the 6 seems like that's where all the play is. How do I even get you on the 4? It's a little funny. It doesn't just go everywhere. It goes in the top corner and that side over there. This is one where I think I'm going to come up with a side. And it's a tight pocket, but either side of it, I don't want to be back cutting the ball on the side and going towards that opposite rail. That's no good. Straight in, full is okay, and a little bit below it on this side where we stun over from the corner is okay. So I have to make sure I get past this line I'm just trying. So like once the middle of that rack area is where I need to get to before it starts becoming reasonable. Guess what shot we're using, everybody? Look at how accurate that shot is. That's almost like the worst angle I could have done. But
Roll through it.
can you roll through it and beat it?
I think so.
Oh, well then do that for sure. Yeah, that's fine too, as long as I'm not side pocket hooked. Okay, well, so you couldn't beat it. It's okay. It's okay. It was a little dicey. And I took away the 2-railer. All right. Well, there's only one thing to do then.
Watch the light.
Thank you. Okay. Well,
My fault.
all right. This one, the 8 to the 9, there's a lot of movement. The 4 to the 6 to the 7 is not bad, because even if we get full on the 6, we just don't. You know what? Full on the 6 is okay. We don't need to move much to get a nice angle on the 7, which gives us a nice angle on the 8. So maybe we play the 6 short side. Yeah. And so. I don't know about this. This got a little.
Well, I definitely wanted to go to the rail and back out. I didn't want you. I didn't want to leave it to where you'd be cutting the full.
I was thinking just roll it to here, roll to get full, kind of stop, cut to 7. This is like, I don't know. I mean, it's okay. I guess I just have to blunt roll this in, maybe. It's okay. Yeah, it's a little weak. Yeah, it wasn't the best. Okay, so let's just play this again. We're gonna mark the ghost, but let's play this again a different way because I didn't really like that, and I could have gone like one rail long and ended up blind. I just didn't really like where I ended up here. So here's what I was picturing on this, and maybe I should have said something. But there's a lot of room on the other side of the ball. Like I can even play this. Like you shoot the 5 ball, and just kind of come one rail towards the 6 down.
Okay.
Because now we're, yeah. Just kind of get me full on the 6. Okay, shoot at the side here. And now you can just follow and bump back off the second rail, keeping me on your side of the table. Off the rail, but on your side of the table. Here's that shot again, the same shot, and now here's the stun shot that we're going to be working on here in a minute.
Oh no!
Well, we lost the game, but that was the vision I had of how to run that right.
Okay.
Go ahead and throw them out there. It's your shot. No, it's my shot first. 6-4. We're starting to spew. We lost 2 in a row. We need to regroup. The ghost is a momentum game. We lost 2 in a row, won 6 in a row, lost 2 in a row. So the games happen in streaks. So we really need to win the momentum back here. 3 comes down. So this one here is all about the 6 to 7. We want to use the high outside 2-railer to not only get on the 7, but get on this side of the 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even straight would be okay. We can stop and cut it and go back. So straight, here's our target on the 7. It's here to here, which means anywhere from like the 2nd diamond to the 3rd diamond. So we want to be on the rail. So we want to be on the middle of the table. So we want to move angle. And this is where we can either come 1 rail with outside or 2 rails with center and a twist of inside. I like the 2 rails. Take the 9 on the play. Now you just leg me up to the rail. And yeah. So we use a roll. I guess straight in's okay. You just gotta stop me there. If it rocks an inch or 2, that's fine.
I'm gonna have to remember this. I would attempt to move the cue ball, so I don't have that thin of a shot.
Yeah, but it was totally fine, right? It was totally standard.
Okay.
Yep, I like that run. That was a clean run right there. Good. Nice shooting, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, so we did a few deep dives on patterns. We did some volume. We looked at how we use move angles. So we used a roll to a roll to a roll to a stop to a roll. Really using move angles, using the shot we worked on yesterday, and then talking about target creation. And one of the questions, where do we want to be? How far back? How far to each side? And then once we have a clear target, does our gun hit that target? If not, how do we enlarge our target? Which sides of that target would we like to expand and make it big enough that we can actually get there? We hinted at some stuff with key transitions and exception cases. But anyway, good. Can I take 5 real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
Right, go ahead and you can take some questions, or we're going to be getting into some other stuff. But if they have questions, post them. We're open-minded as to what we work on.
Absolutely, folks. All right. So hopefully everybody's enjoying that. We'll go ahead and highlight this. This is actually a buddy of mine. How's it going, JC? It's been a long time. Good to see you again. Okay, so I think, Steve Wagner, I think you're trying to interact with my chat bot, which I honestly don't even know is working because I haven't seen any messages. I just want to check something. Oh, that's not it. Gotta type it right. And yeah, so, oh, there we go. So my chatbot is working. So I think what you're looking for is exclamation points. If you want to know how many points you have that you would want to be able to play with. So I don't know why. Generally, there's supposed to be some timing messages that come up from time to time, like reminding you to give the stream a thumbs up if you haven't done so already, because I would really would appreciate it. If you're watching on Facebook, then consider sharing this to your Facebook profiles. That way your friends and family can get to know me and Demetrius, and perhaps getting into pool. And of course, sharing it to your favorite pool groups as well. And then liking the stream on YouTube does help me out in the YouTube algorithm, so that way more people can discover the stream while we're still live, or at least after the fact. So, does anybody have any questions in general? I said, while Demetrius takes a break, because I do believe, let me see if this works. I don't know, since I'm the administrator, I might not be able to use these. Craig, I saw you were out there. Does that command work for you still? For the gamble command? S3 204. That's probably at least one of is probably coming up. So we're clearly not done, but I'm pretty sure we're still going to be looking into it. And there we go, Steve. You can see that you currently only have a total of 6 points. You know what? I can try to help that. Let me see here. So you know what? Let's see. How do I do this? So maybe now you can check again and see what comes up. I should have given every viewer in here some points to play around with. So I do believe, Steve, you should have 56 points now. There we go. So you have 56 points that you can gamble with. So as the stream goes on, folks, like I said, be sure to go ahead and answer any questions. If we're out at the table and we don't get a chance to get to them when I return back to the computer and look at them, we'll be happy to try to answer some. Let's see, I'm actually just going to start scrolling around and looking. So like this one, I'll ask Demetrius when he gets back as well, but Night Crime, you're saying, can you ask about the grip and taking the cue back? Is there a pattern that is used, like open on the way back, close on the way up, or trying to keep the fingers in the same spot? So I remember a time where that's what I tried to do, or because that's the way I was taught, to where when you hold the cue on your backswing, you kind of open your fingers up, and then on the forward swing, you kind of close your hand onto the cue. As I've gotten older into the game and stuff, then I start to actually kind of veer away from doing that. I would rather just hold the cue in my hand without actually having any flex of my fingers, primarily because of what basically happens when you clinch. Because you can see here, every time I grip the cue is moving. Right? So what I don't want to happen is when I strike the cue ball, I don't want to clinch right before I strike the cue ball, because that is automatically going to cause the tip of my cue to go down. So if you've ever wondered about how you might have miscued on a draw shot, that's probably why, because you're probably clinching at the last second, because you're about to maybe swing with power, but that last minute clinch that causes the tip of your cue to go down causes the cue ball to scoop right off the table. So I've gotten more into not really moving my fingers at all, or trying not to move my fingers at all when I'm actually holding the cue, just so that I can keep the cue as steady as possible when I'm striking the ball. Oh, can always love answering this. Steve Wagner, you want to know how long I've been playing pool? I am currently 42 years old. I started when I was 17, so a grand total of 25 years with like a few years in between with some breaks. So officially playing, it would probably actually be close to about 21 or 22 if I exclude all of the breaks that I took in between. Bar Guy Billiards, I'll certainly ask him. I think, because he does say that he generally tries to work with intermediate to advanced players. I don't necessarily know what that typically means on the Fargo scale. Like, I had to guess, maybe 500 and above. I don't know if he goes below 500, but I can certainly ask him when he gets here. Or when he gets back. So this is interesting. S3204, he says, you do not develop an eye for that when you have 1 or 2 balls left and the opposition has 6 or 7. Obviously, to some degree, or when something obviously presents itself. So, because that's relating to 8-ball. So one of the things when I review a lot of my 8-ball matches is I always talk about how when I get to the table, I have to be able to assess before I even start shooting if the table is runnable. So in order to do that, you have to check to see, are there any clusters? Are there any opportunities to break out the clusters? And just like, how difficult is it to be able to, run the entire rack? Because if I assess that the rack is not runnable, then I'm not going to just attempt to shoot the balls off that I'm capable of shooting and leave myself 1 to 2 balls. Because generally speaking, at my skill level, if I do that, I am almost forcing myself to lose the rack. My opponent's going to take their 6 or 7 remaining balls and pretty much just set things up for them to be able to run the table while containing the cue ball so that I can't shoot at my last 2 remaining balls. And if they get a ball in hand opportunity, or if they at least get an open shot once the table is set up for them, they're going to run out. Demetrius, we did have a question for you. I'm going to bring it back up on the board here. It says, from Bar Guy Billiards, this is curious to know if you have a skill level window for your boot camp, like Fargo 300 to 600.
Yeah. The first thing I want to ask, I got a question for the chat. What's better than 2 cans of Monster energy drinks?
What's better than 2 cans of Monster drink? I'm going to assume
3. Oh, baby. Let's go.
Golly.
Okay, let's buckle up. Okay, so, okay, I would say that the average range of skill for my students is between 5 to 650 Fargo, 500 to 650. However, the problem is that there are some people that are in the low, like just over 400, that are there's a difference, okay, between somebody who's a 400 Fargo rate that's kind of a casual hobby, like kind of like a not their top priority, kind of lackadaisical 400, just likes to go to leagues and hit balls and is not really working hard on their game, and they'd like to get better, but they're not really putting much into it. Versus somebody that's like, I'm a 400, but but I'm working on my game and I'm studying stuff. I'm working and I play, 10 hours a week, and I put in hours on my table at home, and I'm really hungry to get better. And I'm on the upswing, and maybe the Fargo is going to be climbing over the next year. So if I have a motivated 400 that's like working on their game and actively trying to get better and putting in time and effort, then I can work with that person, especially because I usually schedule 3 to 6 months out and sometimes longer. So then if I talk to that person and kind of get a sense of how they play, oftentimes I can give them stuff specific to them to work on to kind of get ready. And by the time they get to my dojo, we can jam. So for the motivated person, the rules always bend.
Okay.
So that's, yeah.
Well, we're 2.5 hours into the live stream. Why don't you just go ahead and plug your boot camp again?
Okay, yeah. So 3-day one-on-one. I'm really good at what I do. That's it. I get somebody on the table. I watch how they play, and when I watch how they play, I can just see. I see the gaps in their knowledge. I see the gaps in their technique. I see the gaps in their toolbox with cue ball skills, the gaps in their pattern play and their ability to visualize and hit targets and what angle selection they're using and how they're solving problems. And then I see all those gaps. And then in my mind, I see that. I see how I think pool ought to be played. And what I do that I think is kind of cool is I kind of create a road to get from here to there that helps them fill in those gaps on knowledge, technique, cue ball control, and pattern play. And then I constantly flip back and forth between the big picture, which is making sure that people see the vision of what we're trying to build, and then the small picture, which is like those individual pieces that we're working on. So we're working on individual pieces, and I keep zooming out to show them how that helps complete that whole puzzle. So it's like having the picture of the box and then developing the right pieces. I think most people are trying to solve a puzzle where they don't know what the puzzle looks like and they're missing half the pieces. So they've got a 500-piece puzzle, but they've only got 300 pieces and they don't know what they're trying to make. And it's like, I just keep on showing you the forest and the trees, the forest and the trees. Here's the forest, now we're building the trees. See how that makes the forest? And I'm good. I alternate between things that are physically demanding to things that are mentally demanding. So every time you start wearing down physically, then we start working on some strategy or mental game or other stuff. And then every time our brain starts getting a little overwhelmed, then we go back to technique building where we're just putting in physical work. And then right when it's like I've burned out on all of it, then we have our lunch break and we take a little break and give ourselves a break and kind of walk away from it and come back. And every time people walk away from it and come back, before they're struggling on something and maybe it's patchy and tough, then they put their cue down, pick it up 10 minutes later and try again. And next thing you know, it starts working really well. It's just little steps. And then I'm there side by side because video's great. But man, when I'm sitting there side by side with somebody and they can see exactly how I'm doing it, and then I see exactly how they're doing it, and then I can massage them. Anyway, so I'm kind of a wizard. It's really awesome. And anybody that's passionate about this game, I'd love to meet you and spend some time.
How can they reach you though?
MN Pool Bootcamp, Minnesota Pool Bootcamp. So mnpoolbootcamp.com. Look me up, and I do one-on-one and two-on-one training. So if the budget's tight, talk to me about a two-on-one. I actually have a guy who wants to. He needs a partner, so he's scheduled. And I've actually got one guy right now. I've got a few guys that I already have partnered up, but I've got a guy that's coming up on a boot camp that I actively need a partner for him. So I think he's like between 550 and 600 Fargo. So if you're above 500 Fargo and thinking about a partner to make this a little bit more affordable, let me know right away. So, okay.
All right. I did have a question/comment because they were wondering about the 8-ball safeties, and I just let them know, well, we haven't gotten to that part yet, but it is coming.
Sure.
What do you have?
Should we talk about 8-ball? Let's talk about 8-ball safeties.
Sure. Okay.
This is going to be a fun little segment. The story, I have a story about 8-ball. And you know what? Carly said something to say. What did she say about 8-ball versus 9-ball? What did she say?
She believes that she's better at 9-ball than she does 8-ball.
Okay, so here's the funny part. And this is something I found to be a complete mystery. Was when I watched some lower skill level players that didn't really have the ability, like 8-ball is a hold game. You bend your pattern to minimize cue ball movement. So it's like stop, 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 roll, roll, roll. 9-ball is a move game where you got to be playing big angles and thin cuts and side spin and zipping around multiple rigs. So people that are lower level skill levels, on average, you tell me if this is wrong, they run more balls playing 8-ball than they run playing 9-ball.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's just a lot easier to run 4, 5, 6 balls playing 8-ball than to run those balls playing 9-ball.
Primarily also because, even if they're trying to run a specific track, if they fall off course, there's generally another ball that they can shoot at.
They have backup balls and less movement with the cue ball.
Yep.
So what I observed, my daughter, when she was 9, started playing pool with me. And I got to work with a lot of juniors and see a lot of junior pool. I saw more junior pool for those 2-3 years than I'll ever want to see again. And what I found is that all these players were just learning. They didn't really know how to play pool very well. And a lot of these 10, 11, 12-year-old boys, they couldn't really run the balls in order. And when they played 9-ball, they couldn't run more than 2 balls. But when they played 8-ball, they could run 4, 5, 6. So then I'd ask them, like, well, what's your favorite game? And you know what they all said is 9-ball. I like 9-ball. 9-ball's better. And I was totally bewildered. I was like, why would these people, they can't play 9-ball. They don't know how to play 9-ball. Why would they like 9-ball better? And then I watched and I figured out why. It's because what happens with 8-ball is that 8-ball at the beginner level is a self-handicapping game. So picture this 11-year-old boy who's been playing pool leagues for 3 years, and he can like fire balls in with a big power whack, and he can bank some balls and maybe make some long cuts sometimes, and he can make open balls pretty well, but he doesn't really play very good. He's still a beginner. And now he's partnered up in leagues against some 9-year-old girl who it's her first year. So in his mind, he's like, he's competitive, and she's a little girl. He wants to just crush her. It's like, I've been working for 3 years. I just want to destroy her. This is the part where I get to just destroy somebody. So he gets up there, and the balls break. And of course, how does an 11-year-old boy break? I mean, there's a huge 17-ball cluster in the middle of the rack. It's like, so he gets up there and he starts firing his open balls, and he runs 3, and he's ahead 3-0. And then he misses, and she misses back. So then he gets up and he runs 2 more balls, and now he's got 1 ball that's clustered and 1 ball on the head rail, and he can't get on either of those. And then he misses, and she ends up bunting a ball in. Okay, he's got 5 down, she's got 1 down. So then he goes through a couple of innings where he's like chipping away, and maybe he makes 1 of his balls. And as he's killing his soldiers off, he's got less and less options. And meanwhile, she's up there bunt rolling balls, and her balls are more and more open, and his balls are more and more blocked. And the next thing you know, he's kicking and missing his last ball and giving her ball in hand, and she bunts in a ball with ball in hand, and then she misses and doesn't leave him anything, and he's getting frustrated because he can't get a shot. And anyway, by the time he makes his last ball, breaks it open and makes that ball, the 8 ball doesn't go. He's hooked on the 8. He gives her ball in hand again. And then she's got now she's gotten ball in hand multiple times. She rolls in another ball or 2, and now she's got 1 or 2 balls left, and he's on the 8. And next thing you know, he tries to kick the 8 in and makes it in the wrong pocket and loses. Or heaven forbid, she gets down to her last ball and he hangs the 8 and somehow she manages to win. And he wants to like break his cue. So anyway, I've seen that play out like 1,000 times. And I'm like, no wonder he likes 9-ball better. 8-ball's self-handicapping. He's better than her, but the more balls he makes, it gets harder and harder for him as it gets easier and easier for her until she catches up. So therefore, what good is it to be better than her? And the answer is that skill gap in 8-ball doesn't really manifest with the lopsided scores margins that you would expect it to. Whereas in 9-ball, he's bad at 9-ball, but she's even worse. And at least it's fair. And so, granted, he's going to miss a lot, and he's never going to run more than 3 balls, but she's so helpless that she's never going to run any balls. And so, on average, at least he's going to win more of the games than she is. And so, I've seen that in 9-ball, if you have a beginner against a little bit better beginner, I think that the little bit better shot maker is going to win a larger percentage of 9-ball racks than 8-ball racks because 8-ball seems to be self-handicapped. So when I saw this, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to this, playing in leagues, like at what point does the skill level break through to where it actually becomes dominant in 8-ball? It's like, well, once you get to the level where you're frequently running the entire table. If you're just occasionally running the whole table and usually just running a lot of balls, you're in that hell's area where the other guy is going to be catching up on you, even if you're better. And you're not going to see that score margin. But then there's like this escape velocity where you break out of the Earth's gravitational pull. There's a certain level of skill you get to where you go from rarely running a rack to not often, somewhere between like sometimes to often running a rack, where you start running out instead of 2% of the racks or 5% of the racks. Once you get to where you're running out like 20, 30, 40% of the racks, now your skill edge is enough to where you're going to start crushing those opponents. But when you're still learning the game and you're in that right where you rarely run the whole rack, it's frustrating because you're a lot better than the lower rated players, but it's self-handicaps and you don't have the win rate that you feel like you should have against those weaker players. So what does it is the safety play and the knowledge of how to outmove these guys. Because I saw this with my daughter when she was 9, that none of these kids, it always came down to like 1 or 2 balls on the table, and then whoever got the first shot at the 8, or it comes down to where they're both on their last ball, and whoever gets the first good shot at it wins. And they're just taking turns shooting Hail Marys until something lines up, and then that person just gets a fortunate win. And I stared at this for a year, and I'm like, if I could coach these kids, either side I got to coach, I could have them win like 90% of these games. They could win all of these games. So like out of 100 games, one kid runs out the whole rack like 3 out of 100. The other kid runs out the rack 2 out of 100, and 95 of them come down to like a scrabble. And I'm like, if I could coach them, I could have either one win like 90 out of those 95 if I just told them what to do. So I tried this theory. I told my daughter. I taught her how to play these end games. And she ended up winning the state, and then she ended up winning national via EA for her division. And it's just, I actually felt bad because she's playing against all these other kids whose parents brought them a long way to play in these competitions. And she's just torturing them and winning, and they have no chance. And I'm like, I felt guilty. I'm like, their kids don't have a dad who can teach them this stuff. So I felt kind of bad about it and whatever. But I'm here to teach you guys because I know that 60%, a lot of you guys, 60% of your games come down to these scrambles. And if you can learn how to maneuver around and win a lot of these games, it's going to really lift your win rate faster than almost anything else.
Before we get started, I'm seeing a question a couple of times, so I want to give an opportunity to maybe answer it. Safi Mohammed, I hope I said that correctly, says, what is the best technique for frozen cue ball to the rail?
Oh, when you're bridged off the rail?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough shot. I guess the best technique is 1,000 hours of practice over 10 years. But here's what I'd say. It's really hard. What you want to do is you want to be level. So you don't want to make your bridge hand where you're aiming down on the cue ball. You want your cue to be as close to level as you can, but not where you're miscuing over the ball. So depending on the power you need, if you don't need a lot of power, I like to use a bridge where you kind of lay your cue on the rail and you just kind of use like instead of an open bridge on the rail, you make sure that your fingers aren't between the cue and your rail. So you move like an open bridge where your fingers aren't in between the rail and the cue ball, or the rail and the cue like this. But then if you need more power than that, I do a same open bridge, but now instead of here, I need more runway. So now I make an open bridge where my hand's braced against the rail. And I can take a little bit more swing. I've seen people do it with a closed bridge braced against the rail like this. I don't like that because my hand is in the way of my sighting, but there's a time and place where you can do that too. I just don't like that as much. So the key is you don't want your fingers between the cue and the rail. Okay. So 8-ball end games. Maneuvering. There's a few key ideas. One is, unlike yesterday when we were playing 9-ball, we're not defending against the ball we're shooting at. In 9-ball, we're defending against the ball we're shooting. So here's an example. So Chris, let's say we're playing 8-ball and I'm stripes.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday, when this came up playing 9-ball, we put the 9-ball here and the cue ball on the opposite end of the table. So I'm stripes and I want to play safe. So let me ask you this. What do you think about this safety right here? Actually, I'm going to play it a little different. I'm going to play this. Now, walk me through your thought process on how did I do as far as playing safe as stripes? What's the good, what's the bad?
The good is the long distance shot that I have on the 8-ball. I mean, if I want to attempt to try to rail first, spin it in, bring that corner pocket into play, those I think those are at least all the good. The bad is that I can, because of the distance, I can easily or easier put the cue ball back down there and leave the 8 and leave while leaving your 9-ball here, because you have to. You put me in a position where I have to shoot up table. I can easily return that back to you and have you shoot up table because you're not shooting the 8-ball, you're shooting the 9-ball.
Right. So the point is, I successfully prevented you from making the 8, but I made it too easy for you to prevent me from having a good shot of the 9. So when you put the 9-ball here, that's my strike. That means you can't leave me down here. I might be able to cut it in over there once the 8-ball's moved, and you can't leave me over here.
Correct.
But that means that anywhere up table, it's fairly safe for you to leave me. So from here, I'm not worried about the 8 ball. I'm worried about the cue ball.
Right.
And I'm saying I could just touch the edge of the 8 ball and let the cue ball just bounce up table. I call it in the corner, I guess, in case somehow I make the thinnest cut of my life. But really, I'm just going to roll and bump the edge of the 8. And all of a sudden, stripes has a massive problem. Because now look at where the 8 ball is. You can't leave the cue ball anywhere. The only place you can leave the cue ball is like behind the 9 or underneath it, frozen to it somehow. And from this distance, trying to slow roll the ball and get behind the 9 or something, this is really, all of a sudden, I would say, if you had a choice, stripes and shooting, if you had to bet on the stripe or on the 8 ball, I'd rather take the 8 ball from here. I think the 8 ball's already got the best of it.
Right.
Sometimes the stripe will win, but I wouldn't like it. So the problem is, that 9 ball was in a bad position. So instead, what I could maybe do is, I could maybe bank the 9 further so it comes over in front of the corner.
Correct.
And we can do this a couple ways. Maybe I can even just go 1 rail. And all of a sudden, now I didn't really leave an easy shot on the 8 ball. But more than that, the 9 ball, man, you've got to be really careful with where you leave the cue ball because there's a lot of spots where, now maybe I still left them where they could leave me exactly here on the side rail, which is maybe what they'd have to try to do. But now it just, all of a sudden, if I don't get it far enough, I can cut the 9. And even if, the point is, I like trying to put the 9 in front of the pocket a lot better than putting the 9 on the rail.
Right.
Any comments or anything you want to add, or does that make sense? Or
No, that was generally the move because I'm not trying to. So I work with a lot of APA members, especially in my area, and I have a bunch of APA teammates as well, or a couple of APA teams. And I would know that I have players that want to take this scenario and pretty much go for the win. And what that means is that they're going to try to bank the 9 ball over here because they at least know and understand that the cue ball is going to do something like this. But then learn the hard way that because they missed, they also lost the game. I've also seen to where they will go ahead and try to go for the win by going over here, but they just don't realize that they completely lose their cue ball. Their cue ball's all the way down here, and then now they have some tough shot on the 8 ball.
And they're the worst of it now, yeah.
Correct. And so I've been showing some of them, more importantly, to where when you're going to play that type of safety, that one, what you just said, we're not trying to make the 9 ball. We're just trying to get the 9 ball somewhere over here to where almost no matter what you do with the 8 ball, there's going to be a shot at the 9, which puts you back in the favor. Unless, of course, there's a hero bank shot that just comes out of nowhere and it makes it into the right pocket.
Well, yeah, like I said, I'll pay them off. I don't care. So if the 9 ball ends up on the first diamond on the side, on the end rail, you take away that portion of the table. If it ends up here, you take away this portion. And if it ends up here, you take away the whole table.
Right.
So I tried banking it short. I could also try to overcut the bank a little bit. Like this. And that, well, I got close. If I made that, that could have been bad. But it's pretty tough. Now, unfortunately, it did freeze on the end rail.
Yeah. So here, worst case scenario, if I attempt to go for it and make it.
Yeah, you're going to try to leave me up by where you're at now. And
yep.
Whoa, you hit it too good though, Chris.
Yeah, but then I end up selling out. And that's typically what you'd be betting on if you made this move.
Yeah, as long as I don't accidentally make them both in one shot, 4 rails.
1, 3.
Oh my goodness, I got unlucky. Oh, I hate it when that happens.
And I win.
All right. Well, it's hard not to make them both there. So okay. Sorry, guys. I have to have fun. The third monster. Okay. So this rule, there's one other example, and then I'll tell you what the rule. This has it's not my name for it. It's called a starter shot. So here's the other situation I used to demo this. This came up back when my daughter was playing a lot. The 3 and the 8. The 3 didn't pass the 8. And she was solids, and she was on this 4 ball.
The 5 ball?
It's just, okay. So she was on the 5 ball like this. And so the question is, you're solids, what do you do? Well, the only place you could be to make the 3 is up here. There's just no way to get shape up there that's reasonable, especially for a 10-year-old girl at the time. So then the question is, what do you do? And so some players would do one of a couple things. They'd either pocket the ball and call safe, which I know you can't do in APA, but in BCA, you can kind of call safe and follow it over this way. Try to get a nice hook. Or you're trying to get behind the 3. So the other thing that she could do that she looked at was trying to tick the ball and just try to roll over that side of it. But the problem with this is that with the 7 ball on the rail here, even if I had to kick at the 8, all I have to do is get lucky and not leave a shot at the 3. Furthermore, I have to leave a shot at the 3 with an angle to get up table for the 4. So if I was to kick at this 8 ball, and let's just say I kick 2 rails at it and call in that corner. Okay.
What a shot!
Well, that's a really. Let me try that again. I'm trying to not make that ball. Can't help it, guys. Can't help it. Okay, I wanted to be a little bit more hooked anyway. So let's just say I'm kicking at this 8, and I call it. I'll do the same thing. I'll call it 2 rails in that corner. This time I'll kick it a little on the far side. Well, unfortunately, I'm leaving a shot at the 7. My point is, if I hit this ball, and if I somehow, let's say what could happen. If I leave them straight in on the 3, that could be very tough. If I bounce out here and don't leave them a shot at the 3, all of a sudden this could be very tough for Sal. The problem is, I have to leave a shot at the 3 with shape to get on the 7. So I don't like just skimming the 7, and I definitely don't like pocketing the 7. So what I like to do is, there's no reason, you don't really have to get a hook on the 8. They're not going to make the 8. Just put the 7 in front of the pocket. Well, that's get the stance and hit the ball. And just put the 7 over there. Now, there's no Hail Mary bank anymore. And what are they going to do? It's like, the way I had it before, there was no bank on the 8 either. So the point is, it's like now all of a sudden, they got a kick at the 8. But unlike before they had to sell out a shot at the 3. Now it's almost anywhere the cue ball ends up, they're going to have some type of shot. Okay, So that's called a starter shot. You want to put a ball, it's not enough to defend. You want to defend against their shot and then position your ball so it's going to be very hard for them to land the cue ball where they don't leave you a shot in return. That's level 2 safeties. So then there's some other ideas with 8-ball end games. 3 other ideas I'm just going to mention. Intentional fouls.
Yep.
Pocketing your opponent's object balls.
Yep.
And creating clusters.
Yep.
Those are big things. So I'll just demonstrate, and a lot of times they overlap. Like you might take an intentional foul to pocket one of their balls, or you might take an intentional foul to tie up one of their balls. One situation that comes up a lot. If they're solids from here and they got ball in hand, it's like they don't really know what to do. So if they just roll up on this 3 ball like this, well, you can take a foul and shove it right back together with the 8. And now if they don't know how to play this and they sit there and roll up on the 3 again, yeah, they're not leaving you a shot, but you can just take a foul back and push it back on the 8. And if they get frustrated, they keep doing this, as soon as that 8 ball, A, it can go in, and B, as soon as it gets near that hole, all of a sudden the 8-ball player becomes the favorite to win. So this is an example of how to take intentional fouls. There's many examples that come up, and we're going to see them. I just wanted to demonstrate one. So by the way, if you're ever in that spot, one cool move, if the balls aren't frozen, is instead of rolling up straight, where they can shove the 3 at the 8, you can actually roll into the 3 with a little angle. And now, it's very hard to tie that ball back up because they're wedged on top of it instead of on the side. So that's a cool idea. But anyway, so there's intentional fouls, pocketing their object balls. A lot of times your opponent has a ball, whether it's hanging or not, and just shooting it in. So what's an example of that? Well, this for me is a good example. Let's say I'm sitting here, I'm solids. Well, I can't make the 3. I don't want to open this up and leave you a 2-ball run. I could try to shoot the 6 and go into this cluster. But now I need to hit the balls, get a shot at the 3 with an angle to get back on the 8. It might happen. I'm fairly good at this shot, but it doesn't have to work out. And suppose I crash into these balls and get hooked beyond the 8. Now all of a sudden I'm going to lose the game. Why? Instead, I can just take a foul and shoot their stripe in. I don't need that. That's creating a lot of risk. It's creating a lot of pressure on me with their hanging ball. If I don't run out, they've got a hanger. Now they got ball in hand on the 8 ball. What are they going to do? They can't really open this up without me running out. And so most players are just going to like not know what to do. And they're just going to buy an inning. And then it doesn't, I mean, you can literally hand them cue ball in hand again right here. They're not going to win. And so, but at some point, you could just move the cue ball up table. Okay, now the cue ball's up table. So now what do? Either they shoot into the 8 and open everything up and leave you the win, or they don't shoot hard enough and so either they open up and sell at the 3, or they end up taking some kind of foul and they don't get there. And as soon as that happens, now you're solid and you get the wedge behind the 8. And they ain't tying this ball up. They ain't gonna tie that ball. Okay. So this is just an example of how taking a foul on that, shooting in that 9 ball, I was able to maneuver a kind of almost a no-risk way to win the game. Yep. Okay. So intentional fouls, pocketing their balls,
Creating clusters
and starter shots. Those are kind of the tools that we use. Now, if I'm coaching people, a lot of times I go through more examples and ask questions. Are there any comments or questions about this so far?
Well, not about exactly what you're talking about, but Safi wants to know what cues we're using.
Predator, Revo, something, whatever this is. I'm not really an equipment guy, so somebody got me this cue. I'll tell you a funny story about it, though. Shout out to Mo Bashir. Mo got me this cue, and he says to me, he's taking the specs, what weight, what radial pin, whatever. He says, hey, for grip, what for wrap? What kind of wrap do you want? I'm like, well, I said, yeah, I used to use Irish linen. I said, I think I like leather. And he says to me, what about lizard skin? Have you ever tried lizard skin? I said, no, Mo, I'll stick with leather. He says, okay. And so then he's getting ready to leave, and he says, hey, remind me, I can't remember. What kind of wrap did she say you wanted? Did she say you wanted the lizard skin? I said to him, no, Mo, I said leather. He says, oh, okay, no problem. Okay, I'll get that ordered for you. Cool. So then like a day or two later, I get a text message from him. He says, hey, I'm ordering your cue and I can't remember. What kind of wrap did you want? He says, did you say you wanted the lizard skin? And I said, no, Mo, I said I wanted the leather.
He already bought the cue before.
No, he says, no. He says, okay, great. Sorry, I couldn't remember. I'm like, this is the 3rd time he asked me. So then anyway, he says, hey, your cue's in. Like a couple weeks later, your cue's in. I'm like, great. So he comes over to my place and he says, hey, I got you the lizard skin. I'm like, you really wanted me to have the lizard skin. And then you know what the hell of it is, though? I really like the lizard skin. So, okay. I got like, anyway, I can't say that.
Yeah, so Demetrius shoots with Predator. I currently shoot with JFlowers. I used to own Predator as well, but currently I'm sponsored by JFlowers, so I shoot with JFlowers. But we do have a comment from S3204 who's been watching since yesterday. He's currently really enjoying this segment.
Cool. Thank you. Cool. Thank you very much. So now, here's what I like to do. I like to do toy games. Toy games is like a small version of a complicated game to practice the ideas. So the way we do that is Chris and I are going to spar some 8-ball end games. And the way we do this is I put a couple stripes together, a stripe and a solid together maybe to where they don't go. Maybe I put the 6 ball up here where it doesn't go because it's blocked by the 8. But then the 12 ball is kind of on the end rail where that's hard to get on and it doesn't really go. And then I put the cue ball somewhere where it's kind of like neutral. Like I don't think anybody's really running out from here on either object ball. So from here, nobody's really got the game won. And then Chris, you get to tell me, you get to pick. You either get to play solids from here or you get to play stripes from here. And then we're just going to battle it out and see how we win this game.
Okay. So I'm going to take solids. I mean stripes.
Okay.
I want to take stripes.
All right. Oh, trying to get me with the... Well, what's nice is that this was a no-risk shot. I'm never running out from here, number one. Number two, he had a chance to hook me. And if he hooks me, he's really in the driver's seat. So it was a lot of reward without a lot of risk. Now, my thought process was, and this is one time where I don't mind talking through thought process because there's so much going on. My thought process was, it was actually maybe okay for him to open up the 9 there because he's threatening to run out, whereas my ball is so bad, I'm not really threatening to run out. But as I look at it, maybe it's runnable. Now anyway, I don't mind what you did. Low risk, high reward, okay, now I've got a choice. One option that I'm automatically considering, guys, is taking a foul and shooting in his 13 ball. Because if I shoot in his 13, he's got ball in hand, but he cannot win the game. Furthermore, if he opens up to 9, it's like I've got 2 balls to 1, usually having more balls is an advantage. The problem is, though, my 6 is still tied up, and with ball in hand, he might be able to, like, put the 9 in front of the pocket and wedge me. I don't like opening that up yet. I don't like giving him ball in hand yet, but I was eyeballing the intentional foul. Instead, I'm not going to open up that cluster because then his balls are runnable and mine's not. So what I'm going to do instead is maybe move my 6 to where my 6 is pocketable. Like I could kick it down in front of that corner. I have to ask myself, am I worried about leaving a shot? Like, what are your odds of making this ball, breaking that cluster, and coming up with a shot? And I'm not that worried about it, especially if I get the 6 down here. Like, go ahead and try to run out, Fred. You shooting your ball, and I feel like I'm the favorite. So I'm not too worried about leaving a shot at the 13. I'm also asking myself, what happens if I put the 6 here? What happens if he were to shoot my ball in and hand me the cue ball? But I see that I could wedge him beyond the 3, kick the 9 out and wedge him beyond the 3. So he can't really afford to give me ball in hand. So these are the things that are going through my mind. So I think I'm just going to leave him a shot at the 13, especially if he's frozen on the rail here. And I'll just kind of like kick this ball down in front of that corner. And I'm not afraid of him running out from here. And I don't. So this is kind of getting interesting. Now, in a game, I would love him to shoot the 13 in. Or I'd love him to break open the 9. I think both are wrong. I think opening up the 9 is wrong, and I think shooting in the 13 is wrong. And there's one other thing I'm hoping he does. But I'm going to see if he does it. You taking a foul?
I think so.
Okay. Boy.
That's not the foul I wanted. I wanted to bank the 6.
You were trying to tie it up. Okay, we're going to play it out, and then we're going to talk. So there's some really cool options. So this here is now the spot where I can wedge. I got to be a little careful not to foul, which is very possible I could foul. So I got to be a little careful. I might even be better off going to the rail. Oh my goodness.
That's what I was going for, but I sold out.
Hell of a shot, man. Hell of a shot. All right, I think I'm going to shoot the 6 first, unless it's left-handed. You can shoot left-handed. I can shoot left-handed. Okay, I don't want to shoot the rest up because I want to talk about that spot. So, this was a very interesting spot. I know exactly where the 9 was. It was right there.
Yep.
And that 13 hasn't moved. And my 6 was pretty much like there. You were out about here. Is that roughly right? Yep. Okay. So let me talk about what Chris's options were from here. One shot that's no good is pocketing his 13. It would be suicide. If he pockets the 13 with the dream of breaking these balls open and running out, it's not going to happen. And then now he's completely in a bad shot. if he gives me ball in hand, I wedge him, and if he hits the 9, he opens the balls up, and I can run out or I'll move him. I'm up 2-1 balls with a hanging ball. He's just completely lost. And if he breaks these balls open now, it's even worse. What I was hoping he would do, let's just suppose that he doesn't do either of those things. So he tries to just roll a 13 like this. What's the problem with that, everybody? I want to see if anybody in the chat knows. What's the problem with what he just did? I'm not going to make my 6 and break those balls out. I can't risk breaking open the 3. So it seems like a good shot. Well, if I can't make this and run out, and I can't break that open, and you've had a good starter shot, what's so wrong with that? But who knows what I would do as Salas to win this game?
If anything, make my ball. I would think.
Yeah. I'm gonna make his 13, take a foul, because now he's the 9 ball. And unlike before, when my 6 ball was up here, now my 6 ball is hanging, and it's very hard for stripes to win this game. I'd have to check to make sure this isn't possible. Maybe that's not okay. If maybe he can make the 9, so I'd have to be a little careful. Fair enough. Good point. So, hang on. So then, what would you do? Let's just suppose, because I didn't think the 9 was makeable. So let's say that the 9's not makeable off table.
The next one now is, for me, looking at this in retrospect, is I would make your ball. You can wedge me behind the 3 ball like you did, and I have a fairly good kicking gun. So I would kick the ball and try to make sure that the cue ball still beat down table.
So here's what Chris is saying. If he takes a foul and shoots it by 6, if I wedge him behind the 3, my 3 is on the end rail, and all he has to do is kick and make contact with his ball, and then if he does, he's outnumbering me 2-1 on balls, and he's got his balls open. Not a bad suggestion, but Chris, I would not willingly put myself in a spot where I had to kick and hit a ball for my life. Maybe if I was really desperate. But there's one other thing you could do, and that is, I didn't like rolling the 13 to here, where you could just take a foul and concede it. But what you could do is roll it in front of the pocket where it doesn't really go, and then put me in a spot to where there's no way I'm making the 6 and breaking those balls open. So what did you really, you basically did the same thing of just putting this ball in front of the pocket, only putting a little care into not letting it be so easy for me to take a foul. Now granted, I could still try to bank this ball in, but suppose I bank this ball and it hangs up and I give up ball hand, it's a lot of risk. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that if you are going to just, there's a couple ideas. The 6 ball was sitting such that it's okay to leave a shot as long as you don't leave a breakup. That was my point. It's okay to leave a shot for 6 as long as you don't leave a breakup. So if you bank this 13 to the rail and just leave the cue ball long and on the rail, they're not going to route from here. And now, what do? They can't open up the cluster, so they're going to, and they can't make their 6. It's actually a little touchy. How do you even hit the 6 without making it? If you make it, you're dead. If you try to go rail first, you could come off it and scratch. You actually put them in a little bit of a tricky spot here. So that's kind of the shot I like, is just rolling this ball to the rail, defending it from being intentionally fouled into the corner. Okay, anyway, just ideas, guys, just ideas. All right, let's set up another one. This time we'll wedge 3-9. Oh, where are we going to put these? We can put them in the middle of the table so that the 3-9 are wedged in the middle of the table and they don't go. The 6 and the 9 are all on the rail here, and neither one goes past the 8. And the cue ball is going to be, I want to make sure there's no easy hook. I want to make sure there's no easy. All right. You want to be stripes or salads here?
I will take solids.
I really like this shot. I You're fine. So what would really, were you trying to get me behind those two balls?
Yes.
Yeah, so I love what Chris is saying. If Chris's idea was if he gets the cue ball here and the 6 in front of the pocket, what am I going to do? I can't hit the 9, but if I hit these balls, I'm opening up the cluster, which is the only thing keeping him from running out. And that would put me in a world of hurt. So I really like the idea, and it would be interesting to talk about what would I do. So let's talk about what would I do. Let's just suppose I was hooked right now. I mean, I'm going to play it from here, but if Chris had gotten me hooked, then what are some options I'd have from here? What do you think, Chris? I see 1, maybe 2. One option is I could shoot your 6 in and hand you the cue ball. I don't like that. I'm just saying it's a desperation move.
Right.
I could also try to kick at the 9 maybe and leave these balls clustered.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like opening these up. So it's a pretty, if he could have gotten me here, I either have to kick the 9, take a foul and pocket a 6 ball and just hope that he can't win that safety battle. There's a possibility that I could skim the 12 and kick the 13 up table towards that 9 ball. Like if you left me here, I could probably billiard, make a legal hit and kick the 3 past the side and make it hard for you to run out. But that's not the best. I mean, that's a very good move that you were trying. So now I'm stripes. Fortunately, I can hit my 9. Probably don't want to make the 8 out of turn, which is not hard to do from here. Because either way, I don't want to hit the 9 into it, but I don't want to follow into it either. I could try to cross bank the 9 towards the 6, but that's funny. If I make it, it actually hurts me. So I could kick at the 9, just to take. If I kick at the 9, I won't make it, and I won't make the 8 either. That's one option. I could also softly cross bank the 9. I just hit it soft enough I can't make it. Those are kind of some ideas I'm considering. So I think I'm just going to softly cross bank it. Hang on. There's one other question I asked myself. If I cross banked it over and left you a shot and you took a foul and pocketed my 9, what would happen? If I leave you a shot at the 9 and you take a foul and pocket my ball, I've got a ball in hand of the 13.
I've blocked your pocket because that was the only other reason why I didn't try to take intentional fouls, because the 13 goes here with ball in hand.
So now I have to ask myself, do I have to defend against an intentional foul? If I hit the 9 and leave him a shot at it, he can shoot in my ball, give me ball in hand of the 13. What do I do? If I wedge him here, he can run out. It's not so easy. It doesn't go inside. So, but then again, I do have ball in hand. I can't take an intentional foul back and shoot his ball in, because then he can wedge me down to 3. So I'm really asking myself if I need to defend against the 9 ball. Do I have to defend my own ball against the foul? And I don't know. I think I do. I don't think I'd like ball in hand. So I think I'm gonna bank this 9 and try to block it. Use the 6 so that you can't pocket my ball. Now, it slid over a little bit. Now, if you do pocket it, the good news is at least I get ball in hand and I'll be able to hopefully come up with something. But that's not a bad shot. It's always risky to give a good player ball in hand.
Yeah, because I'm looking to see if you can go behind my 6 ball and use my 6 ball to ticky into the corner.
Yep, there's always wiggles and there's always options for a good player with ball in hand. Yep. But it's not a bad shot.
You give me a low risk opportunity, I'm going to take it.
All right. Yeah, and I didn't like this at all.
Yep.
Because if you hit it and get a shot at it and run out, it's great. But now, and maybe you could wedge me on the other side of the 3. You might have gotten a little lucky because you might have landed perfect to where you could stick me on the back of the 3 and take away everything. But if you don't get perfect on that, I like my end of it as stripes quite a bit. But So I didn't really like that shot. Let's see if you can make it work. Well, you got the rail, but you didn't get the hook. So he didn't get the hook. So now I'm not thinking about cross side. It's just too tough. I'm thinking about banking this ball across corner and trying to tie up this pocket and really just leave him. Gosh, if I can get it behind the 9, that'd be sick. If I can zigzag behind the 9 or leave him on the end rail. So I'm looking at this path right here. So I'm looking at this is my first rail, second rail target. And then mainly, I could get the 13 to take away the 3 ball, but mainly I'm just trying to get my cue ball at the end rail. Is there anything better? And I'll call it here. It could go too, by the way. Oh boy, I made the 8. I'm sorry, that's really lucky. I hit that way different than I meant to, and I went really hit. I think the top spin might have meant it, and somehow I went really farther long than I meant to. Like way long. Well, luck is part of the game. Luck is part of the game. Hey, you blocked the pocket, maybe? All right. So we could shoot these out, but let's go back a couple shots. Sure. So first of all, I want to look at my shot again because I didn't hit this. This did not work at all. Okay, so this was a total fail on my part. So the 3 was here, my cue ball was here, the 9, yeah, the 8 was off the rail, but close to that, yep, like that. So what I did clearly didn't work. So maybe, I mean, at some point the bank is possible. I just don't like going all in on a bank where I'm like under 50% to make it. So the other option I could do is just play 1 rail with the cue ball. Just try to play it to the end rail and leave you tough and put balls in play. Like, that's not terrible. What do you think your make percentage is in a big match on this ball? 50-50? Yeah. So, I mean, maybe this is similar to if I had a bank shot. It's tough. So that's not the stupidest shot ever. So maybe going for the bank is okay. Going for the shot I just shot is probably okay. Is there anything better? So far, I feel like I ought to be better than 50% from here. Is there anything better that I could do that gives me more than that? It's a little tricky. I'm not seeing anything that's really higher percentage than that. So maybe at some point, maybe I got to go for the bank.
I'm just thinking out loud, but is there not a 3-rail route that leads you to here to stick behind the 9?
Yeah, that's pretty. It's a lot of movement, and my cue ball might be a little wild, but I can also tie it to 12 with that 8, so I could call the 12 cross corner. This is kind of a cool shot. Bank to 12 cross corner. I can make the 8. I can make the 8 that way.
But there's what I was thinking with the cue ball.
And I was, so a little lucky, but good cue ball. Banking the ball is okay. Okay, so anyway, from where Chris was, he put me in a good spot. But here's what I was saying is, I felt that he got a little lucky to get exactly there, because if he got somewhere like here on this 3, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe we just, but now you can't hook me as easily behind that ball. It's like if you get here on the 3 or here on the 3, it's a little harder to get a hook on that 9 ball. Right. And I like Stripe's end of it. So I don't like, let's spot up the stripe here. I don't like trying to break these open here because I feel like if you miss the breakout, it's just a little bit too wild.
No, I was way down here somewhere.
Okay. And this ball was like,
I had an angle to where I was trying to come into the cluster.
This is something like this. Yeah, because you could make the 9 ball.
Yes.
I felt that the 9 ball was like almost like
Because
the 9 ball was a little,
the 6 was, I said gave you a
That's
ticky
fine, that's
opportunity,
fine.
and I could make the 9.
okay, something like this. Okay. So is there anything else with solids that we could do? We talked about shooting in the 9 ball. Is there anything else solids could do here that makes sense? I'm looking at, is there, like, if there's a safe way to open up the 3 and take away both shots, but I think it's a little tricky to do that. This might be just a neutral position where there's nothing really winning you can do. I mean, you certainly can't hit those balls and leave me the 9. And so the only way to hit those balls and not leave me the 9, I don't see how you defend a 13. Like, for a minute, I was entertaining, trying to, like, skim the 12 or the 13 and shove the 13 to the end rail a little bit like this.
Sure.
That's actually kind of a cool shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe I got a little lucky those balls doubled up though. But I was thinking about trying to skim it and push this ball here and cover that. So anyway, these are the things I'm thinking. I'm not saying like I'm so smart or look at that's the right shot, but we're just playing with ideas.
Yep.
The other option would be what would have happened if Chris had just taken a foul and shot at my 9. What do I do with strikes here?
Go for the ticky.
And yeah, but this ball was a little bit tighter than that, I felt. But okay. But what's nice about this ticky is that I don't have to make it. I could just hang it and wedge it. So instead of trying to make it, that's a little risky. What if I just did this and wedged him on the 3? So these are things to consider. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just talking about what the options are. Now, he can skim this and zigzag down the end rail, right?
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Yeah, good shot. So the point is, who do you like better from here, strikes or solids? It's clearly solids.
Right.
And he got here, he gave me ball in hand. I tried what I thought was a clever shot, but it just wasn't good enough.
Right.
So maybe making the 9. I'm not saying it was right. It was risky to give a guy like me ball in hand. But it had some points to it.
Right.
So now what do I do? Do I go all in for the 12 to the side? Does it go on the side? I mean, I guess I gotta call it and hope I park you where it's tough. You got me.
Well, I still gotta make the ball.
Yeah. But and just to be clear, you don't have to. You can also leave me up here. If you're gonna ever play shape for the 3 on the side somehow, it's pretty safe. I'm not telling you. Swish.
Oh.
We're just tapping balls around and talking. Let's see here. It's really hard to make 13 and the 8. That 6 is in the way.
Whoops.
Jump it up. Yeah, I can't get long enough to. All right. Okay. I think that we did a couple. We'll do one more
Okay.
because people can go back and watch this again if it's happening fast and they're not necessarily keeping up with all of it. Watch it a second time. Some of these ideas and some of these moves, yeah, good stuff. This time, let's just see what we get if we open these up. And I want to set it up to where nobody's got a good run out. So supposing you were here, this is too easy for you to be to get locked up behind the 6 if you choose solids. So let's say, how do I want to push this? And you might have a good bank here. Let me see about this. I don't think you can run out with solids, and I don't think you can run out with stripes, and there's nothing where you completely lock me up. Okay, let's play it from here. Stripes or solids, Chris?
Let's see here. I'm going to take solids.
All right. No.
That's not what I wanted.
Set it up again. Set it up again. Obviously, that doesn't work.
I didn't want the ball to go in, but I don't want to park it in front of the pocket either. That's not what I was trying to do.
Okay. This seems good.
That still wasn't. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't want you to be able to make my ball.
Well, but if I make your ball, you can make the 3 with ball in hand, right?
Oh, that's fair.
So I can't pocket your ball. And I can't leave you a shot at the 3. I can't leave you a shot at the 6 with an angle to get on the 3. So I don't know that I want to risk opening up the 9. I'm thinking about coming off the 13 and coming behind these balls. Is there a danger? How dangerous is it that I'm going to leave you a shot where you can make this ball off table? I mean, that's possible, I suppose. The other thing I can do here, guys, is I can try to leave them full on long on the 6. So instead of trying to hook them behind the 3-9 and risk like leaving them the 3, if I leave them long and straight on the 6, it's going to be really risky for him to try to make this and get on the 3, because if he leaves himself anywhere, like he needs ball in hand to get on the 3. So therefore, I'm not worried. I don't have to defend against a shot at the 6. I also don't have to defend against him pocketing by 13, because if he gives me ball in hand, I can make the 9 and get on the 8. So I think the right shot for me is to just chip my ball out, leave him long and straight on the 6. Well, look at that. Now that was risky, because if you leave me a shot, I might be able to run out. But it's a tough run out, to be fair. So it's not, maybe it's a good risk. So my choices, I could obviously hit at the 9, but if I open up the 3 is the only thing stopping Chris from running out. I could go rail first at my ball, and as long as I hit it, you've got a very difficult situation. Or I could jump at my ball. I don't like that. I risk weird things happening and opening that up. I could have soft roll onto the 9, just bunt it. Where even if I take a foul, I bump the 9 onto the 3, and if I get a good hit, that's okay. It's a little risky. I could shoot the 8 into that 9-3.
Sure.
And just create a massive cluster. So these are all moves, guys. So one thing, in chess, they call it the critical situation. They talk about candidate moves. And I don't do this on every shot, if I see what's obviously the right shot, or if I see a game-winning shot, or when I see what's the clear move, I'm going to take it. But when you're in a situation where you could win or lose the game based on this choice, and there's nothing obvious, I don't look for one move. I look for 3 moves. And in chess, this is what they say, is they say, when you find a good move, don't make it. Look for something better. And in pool, when you're in a critical situation where there's a weird spot like this, I don't look for one move. Because when you find one move, you might be like, well, I guess that's what I have to do. So what was the first move I saw? Was kicking at the 12. The next move I saw was bunting the 9 at the 3. Then I saw chipping the 8 over and tying it up into a cluster with the 9-3. So now I've got 3 options. And I get to pick. Now I get to pick which one I like. Instead of seeing one option and being like, well, I have to do that. That's my only shot. It's like, no. I've got 3 shots. Which one do I like the best? And in this case, I'm not a fan of bunting the 9 at the 3. I just don't like that. I'm either going to probably create the cluster, rail first. I don't feel in control of. So I'm just going to do this. Tricky game, man. So this is a good way to practice if you have a buddy that plays 8-ball with you. Play out some end games like this. Okay. Well, now I've got a clear shot. What's my clear shot? I'm going to take a 12 and give him ball in hand back. Now
that was you. Your stripes.
Oh, I'm stripes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Put it back. Because that's why I put your 9.
Okay, then I don't have a clear shot. I'm mixed up. We're going back and forth. Where was I? Here?
No, you have ball in hand.
Oh, I have ball in hand. Okay, well, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so now I might be better off taking a foul in pocket. So I'm always thinking, like, if my pocket is 6, well, he might, I don't know, am I worried about him making this, drawing back, and breaking it open and opening it up? Maybe a little. What if I make the 3? Am I worried about him making the 6 and breaking these open? Maybe a little. Okay, fair enough. I'm not going to be able to combo his 13-6. That's a little sporty. And I could try to break him open, but that's Hail Mary to open that up and get a shot at it. Good shot then. Interesting. Okay, if I pocket your 3, you've got to make the 6, break open the 8, and get a shot at it. I don't know. I think you're going to hit that cluster. With ball in hand, I think you can hit that cluster. It's pretty risky to give you ball in hand. Shoot. Okay, I don't have to. Now I'm back to where can I leave you to where I'm creating threats. I don't know. Open up this 9 because your balls all go. You know what I might do? What would happen if I just soft roll up and wedge down the 9? Of course, you could give me ball in hand again, but then my situation doesn't get worse. And if if I don't really open the 8 up. Yeah, I might just buy an inning here. And just change him just a little. I didn't open the 8 up to where he can easily run out. But I made it so that now if he gives me ball in hand again, there's a lot more things I can do with that 9 than I could before. So I'm just going to see if I can maneuver around and wiggle things out and give him another chance to do something different. All right, I like it. He opened up his balls. This is actually getting good for solids. Very nice shot, Chris.
Thank you.
Getting pretty good for solids here. So the 9 ball still stops him from running out. I'm glad that I opened those up a little. I think I'm going to have to go up table. Do I chip the 13 and leave it here, or bank it and leave it over here? I'm trying to figure this out. I think I'm going to chip the 13 and go up table. And some people might find this boring, but it's not boring to win tournaments.
I'm just curious.
He's going to stick me with it, huh? Okay, I thought about this. So I did ask myself what I would do, and I thought that I could do this. I thought that I had this shot. It's a little risky, but I mean, I got to do something, and I can hopefully make this. Let's see. It's not, I don't think it's comfortable.
Good shot.
Is that good?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That was good.
No, I'm asking if do I need to shoot this?
Oh, yes, you need to shoot it.
That's what I was saying.
Yes, you still need to shoot it.
Okay.
I was betting on that. Obviously, if you tried to do that, that you double hit the cue ball, or an accidental foul would occur, or you wouldn't attempt to take the shot. That's what I was betting on.
Not the easiest 8 ball.
Good shot.
All right. Well, I got away with one. Good shooting, Chris. Good. So I think that I appreciate there were some interesting comments about some things. There was a shot at the Monster Brewing Company. I don't know what to say. Not everybody can appreciate the 48 ounces. I want like a good .20 Monster blood level. But no, hopefully you guys can take something out of this stuff. Because when you play really, really, like I'm not a professional, like international pro, but like if you play me, I'm going to be able to outmove you a lot and come up with stuff. But when you're playing anybody that's not me, like I watch a lot of 8-ball. And when these situations develop, I feel like my win rate against most recreational and even amateur players, like even intermediate, like if I'm playing APA 3s, 4s, and 5s, and even 6s in 8-ball, I feel like I'm going to win 90%. I feel like I can win 90% of these games just by knowing these tools and some of these ideas, thinking about the zones that I'm creating as to where they could leave me, thinking about the zones I can leave them, practicing these a few times so you can visualize the shots and how they did, what their options are and how they develop, giving myself options, staying calm. It's just these things that we just did. I think my prediction would be, if you're an APA 5, my prediction would be that out of 10 racks of 8-ball, six to 8 of those racks will come down to where it ends up being some maneuvering in the back half of the rack, and that you could win 80 to 90% of them if you learn these moves. So you're out of 10 racks, you could go from winning, if you're a 5 playing another 5, instead of winning 5 out of 10, you might go to like 7. Instead of going 5-5, you might win 7-3, just by learning how to maneuver around in these games. It's like doubling your skill. So that's what I think.
All right, I accidentally clicked on something that I shouldn't have. Could you just repeat that last sentence?
Yeah, I was thinking about what this would do for an average APA 5. If a 5 plays another 5, 10 games, they might win 5 out of 10. But if they play 10 games and they know how to maneuver around in the end games, I feel like they might win 7-3. And they all of a sudden, they go from even money to doubling the opponent's scores. And it's not easy to double your effective skill and pool. So I think that you could double your effectiveness playing 8-ball by maneuvering, watching this video a couple times, thinking about it, and playing this with your buddies a little bit in your free time.
All right. Do you have anything next in mind?
I'm flexible for sure.
Okay, because I was going to go take a small break, so if you want to entertain the crowd while I'm gone.
Any requests from the crowd?
So I will be right back.
No problem. Let's see any requests in the chat. I use the luck strategy. Nothing else works. Yeah, I can't argue with that. Luck's good. All right. I'm just going to I'm just going to have some fun for a minute. I'll show you guys a few fun shots I like. The rail first with low right spin. Maybe you've seen it, but this is pretty with the measle cue ball. I really like the way the measles stand with a good hit. That wasn't really a good hit, but it was okay. If you hit it good, they rev sideways. Good enough. What am I getting for requests? Let's see. Yeah, can I run out of 9-ball rack? Sure. Well, I hope maybe. We'll see. I like 9-ball. Huzzah. Okay. I just want to. I'm going to open up the 2. I just want me to run a 9-ball rack.
Okay.
I just want to run one out. Okay. Let's see. Getting on the 2 is a little tough. Sheesh. The 2 to the 3 to the 4. Once I'm on the 5-ball, it seems like everything's open. So 1 to the 2 to the 3 to the 4. I guess the 2 goes to the side if I could ever get exactly here. 2 goes in that side over there. Boy, why is it so tough, Chris?
Because of the 7-ball.
Yeah. I could end up back on either 2. I don't like this. It's a tough shot. I'm flying into traffic. So I feel like I got to go all in to either get here or here. This isn't bad, but it's kind of blocked by the 7 again, yeah. Coming down this way, if I hit the 9, it's tough to get on. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just got to accept I'm going to be going
The cut.
Yeah. So I got to come down. At least I can get on it. be hitting the 9, and I'm going to be on the wrong side of the 3, but at least I'm on the 2. I made that. Yikes. All right, so now we knew that this was going to be tough. I might, middle of table, it's going to be really brutal. Am I whining? I feel like I'm whining. It's a tough rack. I think I'm just going to have to accept a very difficult shot. High ball, scratch. So I'm going to have a stun, which is tough to control. But this is 9 ball. We picked a tough game. I'm just going to have to get close to it and hope I can. Now that 7 ball is in play. How is there a shot where the 7 ball is not in play? Am I whining? I'm still whining. Okay, I'm going to have to try to hit the 7 or thread inside of it, I guess.
Uh-oh.
A little bit more. Yeah, no good. My speed's no good. I needed to kick it a little bit. You know, it was close, man. If I could have just moved it. But, oh well. I got the 6 ball maybe. Rail first. Take hit with outside English to try to twist into it. That's gotta be so tough.
That's why we play it, right? Embrace the, well, what would you say? Embrace the adversity?
Yeah.
Not fear from it?
Yeah. I thought I hit that pretty good.
All right, so I wanted to wait until that because I do want to show that Dennis May Baroda. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you so much for the $5 super sticker.
Oh, thank you, Dennis. Was it Dennis you said? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't tell what animation this is, but it looks like it's like almost like a thank you kind of gesture kind of thing. So we really do appreciate that, Dennis.
Is that some kind of Pokemon? Is that what that is?
I have no idea what kind of sticker that is.
I don't even know.
But it's awesome.
That's funny.
All right. So did you have anything else on the agenda for today?
Of course, yeah. Just taking a quick moment. And corner.
That's one way to play it.
I mean, what's a cool shot from here? What about this? There's always a fun shot. There's got to be a fun shot from here. That's kind of interesting.
Was it a 5-rail bank?
5 rails is it's possible. It's just hard on this table to. But yeah, I'll try it. I like it up in that corner.
Yep.
Yeah. Awkward bridge. Yeah. Not gonna work.
Side pocket.
Okay. So we were going to talk about we're going to do more 9-ball patterns. We're going to be doing a drill. That's kind of a drill I came up with. It's kind of a power drill.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
And then we might later look at some more 9-ball safeties. So let's think.
Actually, there is a topic that we've you and I
Skill
have talked
versus luck. Yeah, let's take a little talk break. Let's take a talk break. Yeah.
So the question that I had for that I always ask, like even on the podcasts and stuff, is when does luck become skill? And you would think the most common answer is, well, when you can repeatedly do certain things. And I want to know if there's a deeper dive to that, to the point to where if you've been in any match against any player, whether they're above your skill level, below your skill level, whatever. And there's a scenario that comes up on the table to where the make percentage of the shot or the make or the successful percentage is relatively low. But in that given moment, under the given conditions, whatever was needed to be done was executed to perfection. When would you say that was not lucky versus it was actually skillful, given that the player basically says, this is what I'm trying to do, and they execute it, and then the most common argument is going to be, set it up again, I bet you couldn't do it again, and they probably would be right. So if they got it, Is it luck or is it skill?
So I have a few ideas on this, but I think the first question is like, what does luck mean? What is like, you had one idea is if you can't do it again, if you say that skill means for a shot to be a skill shot, you have to have it solved to where you can repeat it consistently, reliably.
And I'm not going to say 100%.
Sure,
That's
sure,
unreasonable.
fair. I'm just, yep. And then that would mean that if you that luck would be stuff that you're low percentage on. Give you 10 tries, you can only do it once. And then if you happen to make it that 1 out of 10, that's luck. So does luck mean you are an underdog and it worked? Is that what we mean luck means? Or do we mean that luck means you don't know what the outcome is going to be and it could be favorable or unfavorable and it happens to end up favorable? Is that what luck means? Like, I don't really know. Like, how would you define luck?
So that's actually a very good counter question then. I like the way you phrased it at the end. You don't know what's going to happen. You're betting completely on randomness.
Yeah.
And you get lucky, right? You buy a lottery ticket, right? Because you're betting completely on randomness and you get lucky and hit the lottery. So that's what will in pool. You're not committing a foul, but you. At the very best, you can say, the ball's going to go 5 rails, but if you made it, that's what we said you were trying to do. Maybe we would argue that was skill, but we would say, you don't know the ball's going to go 5 rails. You just hit the ball and it just drops somewhere. And then that would be considered luck. Yeah, so when you don't know the outcome, or I could say we can tighten up the argument, you don't know enough of a percentage of the outcome, and you just, Hail Mary.
So I think about this. Howard Lederer, funny, he was a poker player. Now he's like completely black book because of full tilt scandal and all this stuff. But anyway, back in the day before, when he was still a celebrity, he used to have a quote that went, in poker, there's luck, there's skill, and there's luck. And one of the most important skills is managing through the luck. And because it can be very challenging. So here's what I think. First of all, there's always going to be unknowns and things that we can't predict. But one of the skills in pool is maximizing the chances of something good that can happen. So, for example, suppose we have a jar with 100 M&Ms, and there's 1 green M&M and 99 brown M&Ms. If you get the green M&M, you win. Well, if you pick 1 M&M out of that bin, your chances are very, very low. But suppose you could scoop 50 M&Ms. Well, if on my turns, we take turns drawing for the green M&M. If on my turn I drew 1, and on your turn you draw 50, well, after 5 games, you're going to have won. You're going to get the green M&M 2 to 3 times, and I'm probably not going to have got it once. Were you lucky to draw that green M&M those 2 or 3 times? Yeah, you got lucky. You didn't have to. You couldn't control. You didn't know you were going to get it. Each time you got that green M&M, you were lucky. But you were skillful in drawing more M&Ms than me and giving yourself better chances. So in pool, there's always things that can be uncertain. Like I froze myself on that 7 ball. I don't really consider that bad luck. But had I knocked it an inch and barely gotten a shot at it, I wouldn't really consider it good luck. Like I maximized, in my opinion, I did something I thought that gave me the best chance. And I try to do things that give me the best chances as often as time as I can. And a lot of times it works out. And sometimes it works out in ways that I didn't anticipate. I almost missed the ball in that corner, that 2 ball, and it caught really wide and wobbled in. It's like, was it luck that it fell when it could have just not fallen? Well, it wouldn't have gone in if I didn't get it close enough to have that chance. So I think what I think about is going back to your 5-rail bank or the guy that makes this Hail Mary kick. It's out of their control in terms of they can't replicate it again and again. So there's going to be some uncertainty, and it's going to come down to anytime that there's anything other than total control on the shot, it's going to come down to a little bit of luck. But the skill isn't in that you can make it every time. The skill is maximizing the chances of having something good happening. And that there's situations where the odds of success are so far and so rare that if you could get it, if you could give it a chance to where it goes, then you did something amazing to even give that a chance to happen. So I think that it's very, if a guy comes with some weird 5-rail kick where the ball comes off another ball and it works out, I'd be like, that was a highly skilled shot to give that a chance of happening. And then took a little fortune, but to even give it a chance where fortune could meet you halfway, took a lot of skill. That's kind of what I think about that. What do you think about that?
So I thought what I was hearing you say was that there's basically just, because I mentioned before about you don't know a certain percentage of the outcome.
Right.
So that, a single percentage could be 0. Like you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. You just swing the cue ball and something magical happens and it works out in your favor. So yeah, luck. So what I thought I was hearing you say is when you said maximize the success opportunity, is there I wouldn't say is there a flat percentage number, because I think it might vary from person to person, especially scenario to scenario or shot to shot, to where like we can probably put up a shot to where I'm more lucky to make it than you are because you're a more skillful player than I am, and so your certainty